The Blast from Our Past Network.
Hey everyone, co-host Corey here. I just wanted to take a quick second and say thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. Without you, Podcasting After Dark would not be possible. If you would like to help the show grow, please consider signing up at patreon.com/podcastingafterdark. You can also support the show by purchasing one of our awesome t-shirt designs on our merch store at podcastingafterdark.com. or by picking up a copy of 7 Winters Alone by David Irons on paperback, hardback, or Kindle. Just search for 7 Winters Alone on Amazon or click on the link in the show notes. A free way to help out is to leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Those reviews are huge for us and really helps get the show in front of new listeners. Again, thank you all so much for the love and support you've given us over these past few years. It really means the world to us.
Lock your doors, close your windows, turn out your lights, for chills and thrills await you. It's time for Podcasting After Dark with your hosts, Corey Stevenson and Zach Schaefer. Stay with a friend, say your prayers as grisly ghouls close in to seal your doom. Tonight's episode, The Burbs, starring Tom Hanks, Rick Ducommun, and Bruce Dern.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the unofficial start of summer. I am one half of the Podcasting After Dark team, Corey, a.k.a. Sleazy C. Joined with me, as always, is Zach, the total snackage Schaefer. Is that Slavic?
No, it's hydrocephalic or cephalic or whatever the heck.
Hydrocephalic. We had one of those kids in my high school, by the way.
Oh, that's really mad. I'm sorry, that poor kid.
Yeah, and that's why I didn't have the biggest head in high school. Ba-doom-tsh. And we lost all of our listeners. Right? 2 minutes.
Those guys are insensitive jerks. No, I'm just kidding. Just don't take it as a grain of salt.
I'm not kidding.
I mean, I was gonna start out by saying somebody left trash in my street and never picked it up for some goddamn reason. What are we talking about tonight, Corey?
Dude, we are talking about one of my favorite comedies of all time, not Fletch, The Burbs, 1989, directed by Joe Dante, starring Tom Hanks. And yeah, right out of the gate, this might not be in our normal wheelhouse because it's, more of a mainstream film. But I'd say out of all of Tom Hanks's movies, this is probably his most cult classic-y of them. This movie did not review well when it first came out, although it did do well. But it was kind of panned by the critics and everything, and it's grown, over the years into this cult classic movie. And the reason we're reviewing it is Zach and I decided to kind of pick 2 summer movies. We wanted to do a theme, and Zach's going to do his summer movie next, and this is my summer movie pick, a movie that I pretty much watch every summer ever since I got it on DVD years and years ago. I've watched it every year, every summer. So,
wow. The
Burbs, baby.
I haven't watched this movie since I saw it in the theater. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
1989.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I've watched bits and pieces of it here and there, but I have never watched it from beginning to end since 1989.
Damn, dude, I'm thrilled. I can't wait to hear what you think about it. Obviously, you really don't have much experience with it, at least not as much as I do. But do you remember seeing it in the theater? Like, do you have that memory in your head?
Oh, yeah. This movie, I mean, all of Joe Dante's films are so easy to just kind of print in your brain. I would not be surprised if he shows up on our Auteur de Force series on our Patreon, like John Carpenter currently is. So if you're not a Patreon subscriber, consider becoming a Patreon subscriber so you can sign up and listen to our exclusive content, like our Auteur de Force series with the Carpenter Factor. Cheap plug over. Yeah, I think Joe Dante would be definitely in that category. His movies are 100% original. 100% unique, 100% special. Whether you like them or not, whether they are your cup of tea, they are all considered cult classics in my opinion, or cult films in my opinion. Every single one of his movies, I'd dare to say. Dare.
My thing is, dude, The Howling is my favorite werewolf movie of all time, followed by Dog Soldiers, but I have always loved The Howling. We will one day review it. I actually have another werewolf movie that I'm going to put above it that I think is a bit more culty. Zach actually has it. He just doesn't know it. But,
The Howling Part 2. The Howling Part 2. Just kidding.
Yeah.
David Iron just went, come on, God.
Yeah.
Yeah, he went, oh, and then he went, oh. That was like an orgasm to a deflated orgasm, to a tease.
But we should just pretty much jump into Joe Dante because I feel like we're going to have so much to talk about there with his movies. I know how much you love Inner Space and obviously Gremlins. I just said The Howling and whatnot. I'll just really quick kind of give one last little bit of, overstatement that I love about The Burbs. It's weird because it's one of those, even though it doesn't take place in one one house, one indoor location, it still for me falls under that category of movies that take place in one location because it is just on this one street, which is what I love about it. I also absolutely adore Bruce Dern. I love Rumsfeld. I think he's so much fun. But honestly, Rick, how do you pronounce his last name?
Ducommun.
Rick Ducommun. Honestly, this is probably my biggest familiarity with him, but I've always loved the art character, even though as I get older, I'm like, I wouldn't want to know him, but I do love him in this movie, and we'll obviously talk more about Rick in a bit, but yeah, man, this movie, I love it from beginning to end, and it almost fits into that weird category of urban fantasies that we sort of talk about, like Chud and stuff like that. But this one probably skirts it just a little bit, like right outside of it, but it still has that little bit of pizzazz that I like about urban fantasy films.
Yeah. Watching this movie this time around, I'm like, this would actually make a really good stage play. They could just keep it's pretty simple, on the set.
Yeah. And famously, it was filmed during the writer's strike of 88. It basically started filming the day the writers went on strike, so they couldn't have the writer on hand to do any sort of like rewrites or help out or anything. So actually, a lot of the movie is improv'd and ad-libbed by the actors on set. And they also filmed the movie in order, like from beginning to end, which is not normally how you film a movie, but I think it's because they were going to blow that house up. They kind of had to film it in order.
Well, not to necessarily besmirch Dana Olson, the writer of this, but they weren't necessarily missing a whole lot improving because he went on to do the screenplay for Memoirs of an Invisible Man.
Which is something we're going to have to cover on The Carpenter Factor that Zach just plugged 2 minutes ago.
We will not be covering George of the Jungle.
No.
Or he did the story for Inspector Gadget.
Oof. I used to love that cartoon. Was not the biggest fan of the movie.
Yeah. So what is your favorite Joe Dante movie then?
I'd say hands down my favorite Joe Dante movie is The Howling. You and I have had extensive conversations about Explorers and how we don't feel like the ending, that third act, really holds up all that well. But I'd say probably before I watched Explorers again, a year ago, I would have put that up there with The Burbs and The Howling. But right now, top three would have to be The Howling, The Burbs, and I'm not quite sure. Maybe Inner Space, maybe Gremlins, next. But because at that point, they're all classic. Like you said, it's all Joe Dante. And Joe Dante's movies are so easy to consume,
They are. My all-time favorite of his, hands down, is Inner Space.
I've
always loved that movie, top to bottom. The Explorers, you guys can argue with us all you want on Instagram or however the three people that see us on Facebook. The first 2/3 of Explorers are perfection.
Yeah.
The last third is not.
No.
And so that's why it gets knocked down a peg for me as well. If the third act of Explorers was just a little bit more decent, it would have been 10 times better. It would have been maybe pushed ahead of Inner Space. But Inner Space gets it for me.
Yep. No, I'm with you, man. Inner Space is definitely higher, and I have less experience with Inner Space than I do Explorers. But yeah, that ending is a dud, unfortunately. But yeah, first 2/3 of it are great.
No shit. No, absolutely. Inner Space will show up on one of our podcasts eventually.
The last time I saw Inner Space was at your house when you were doing an outside movie nights. You were projecting onto like your back door window type of thing. We were all sitting out back, and that was a lot of fun. I loved it, and Inner Space was great. It holds up well, but I haven't seen it since that time we watched it.
Yeah, the only thing I feel like the Burbs was lacking was, actually no, I take that back. It's not lacking anything.
I mean, I wouldn't be upset with more Robert Picardo, but, I'm glad that he's in it.
I'm not either. And yeah, I just feel like this movie is super unique. And it is the type of Tom Hanks movie that I enjoy. I do not like Tom Hanks when he became a serious actor. I feel like it just doesn't do it for me. I'm like, meh, I want to see wacky, silly, odd facial tics and whatnot that Tom Hanks used to do. He doesn't do that stuff anymore. He doesn't do silly anymore. This is one of the last silly movies he did before his career took a turn into the serious realm.
Dude, when he has that sneeze coughing fit in the Klopak's house, it's fucking genius, dude. And I don't even know the noises that he's making, but I at once both relate to him and want him to stop doing it,
Yeah, totally. Yeah, he I think after this movie, he went on to do like Turner and Hooch and Joe versus the Volcano. And then slowly that's when he got into drama. Bonfire of the Vanities, League of Their Own, he was still comedic, but this started to get more serious.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. This is probably my favorite sort of like type of Tom Hanks. I'm actually a big fan of Splash. I love that movie. Don't love what Disney Plus is doing to it with CGI, but I love that fucking movie. And I'm with you. I like that era of Tom Hanks. Personally, I actually love A League of Their Own. I love Tom Hanks in it,
It's a good baseball
with the
movie.
clap.
Yeah.
That's good advice, kid. And like his long ass pee and everything. That's the shit. Because I feel like he tapped into some of the zany Tom Hanks for that, but I think that I feel like that was like the last bit of it. Like you said, he kind of he shed all of that and then just kind of went off to be a serious guy. But this is the kind of shit that I like to see Tom Hanks do.
Did you ever see him in Mazes and Monsters, that TV movie that was an anti-Dungeons and Dragon film?
I know it. I know exactly what it is. I might have seen it long time ago back in the 80s.
It's worth checking out. I think it's free on YouTube.
Oh, awesome. Great.
But you said you love Bruce Dern. Bruce Dern is the best part of this movie for you?
I mean, honestly, it's between him and Rick Ducommun, between Art and Rumsfeld are almost a tie. But I love Bruce Dern in this film. I love his... it's weird because you look at him from a 2022 lens, and he's, what kind of person he probably would be in today's climate. And, I don't know, say what you will about that. But, back then I thought it was an interesting look at that sort of character. And he keeps the character so funny that he never makes him too... like scary. Like now I would find that character to living across from me to be scary, and with his guns and everything. But here he's funny.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't hurt that everybody on the block is white. That probably helps.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there is definitely a lack of diversity in this cast. That's for damn sure. So that wouldn't fly now either.
No.
Yeah, Bruce Dern is a unique, quirky actor. If you haven't listened to our interview with Catherine Mary Stewart, Catherine Mary Stewart made a movie with Bruce Dern in the 80s. World Gone Wild, I think is what it's called.
Yep, World Gone Wild, 1987. Great poster, by the way. Actually, I was scrolling. I just landed on it. I want to watch that movie.
Yeah, I think it's available on Blu-ray in like a German edition, but it has not reached the States yet. Probably
Okay.
Kino will probably release it. I would not be surprised. But yeah, that's a fun, obscure B movie to check out if you've not seen World Gone Wild. It also features our boy from The Last Dragon and Briscoe County Jr. You know him.
Yep.
He's one of Corey's favorite guys.
Yeah, dude, Julius Carrie, man. Fucking love that dude. He's fantastic.
Yeah, go check out that movie.
I gotta say though, probably my favorite Bruce Dern movie, aside from The Burbs, weirdly, is Silent Running. When I was a kid, I don't know why, I remember renting it way young, like super young, and like I think I was looking for something Tron-esque, and I don't wonder how I got like from one to the other. I was like 5 or 6, you know what I mean? So like don't try to figure it out. Just know that I somehow got my hands on Silent Running when I was super young and fell in love with it weirdly. It's a slow sci-fi movie, but as I've gotten older, I realize my favorite sci-fi movies are the super slow ones. And so I think that's probably why I latched onto it, but as a kid I just didn't know why, you know?
Yeah, it's not Silent Running, the song by Mike and the Mechanics.
No.
I'm gonna risk it for the rest of my life.
Love that song, by the way.
It's a great song. Great song. But yeah, that is a really kick-ass cult sci-fi film. I liked him in Diggstown, but that James Woods,
Yes.
what's his face? Louis Gossett Jr.
Yes.
Boxing movie. That's a fun 90s boxing movie.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he's great in everything. He was in, Hateful Eight and everything. He's great in everything he does.
Everything. You know who else is great in everything except for some trilogy? Carrie Fisher.
Go fuck yourself. Dude.
Hollywood Hookers or whatever that Hollywood Vice Squad.
Hollywood Vice Squad. I know, because when I'd be looking for when I used back in the day when I was promoting the Vice Squad review, I would always find Hollywood Vice Squad covers and I was like, I remember that fucking cover right there. Obviously, I love Princess Leia. Grew up on Star Wars. Star Wars is life. This is probably my second favorite hot like visual Carrie Fisher because I still kind of find her kind of milfy in this, and I think she's really fucking hot with her short hair. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure. She did When Harry Met Sally before this, I think, and I was like, oh yeah, it's nice to see Carrie Fisher in a different light. But rest in peace. There's a few rest in pieces in this movie.
Yeah, and honestly, like aside from Star Wars, I'd probably put Star Wars, this, and Blues Brothers as my favorite Carrie Fisher roles. She's awesome in Blues Brothers.
Yeah, no, I love that movie too. This was the movie where watching it this time around, I saw Corey Feldman, and I thought, man, now I know why he didn't have a bigger career because he should have. He's such a great actor.
Yeah,
but he's so damn tiny.
Yeah,
he's
right.
Tiny.
Yeah.
He really is, and I think I'm just speculating, but I kind of feel like that maybe hurt his career.
Held him back a little bit. I can see that. I was more noticing how he and his friends like talked like the surfer talk from back in the day, and I always kind of reference like Denver the Last Dinosaur that we covered on TV Obscura because I think it's a great example of like sort of that caricature way of talking that we all sort of did back in the day, bruh. But here, in this movie, you actually hear them sort of speak it real. And we talked about that in another movie, too, that we just reviewed sort of recently. I was like, it's interesting to hear that accent in reality versus to hear it as a caricature in a cartoon.
Yeah, I feel like, this movie came out in 1989. Couple of years later, Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead came out.
Famously, dishes are done, man.
Yeah, I feel like Keith Coogan kind of bit off of Corey Feldman's character just a little bit.
Yeah.
Because Corey Feldman, who was only 18, by the way, when he did this movie. I'm like, oh, he has to be older, right? No, he was only 18 when he did this movie.
Yeah, and apparently he kind of was having his life was a little bit in turmoil right here. And during filming, apparently Carrie Fisher and Wendy Schaal kind of were surrogate moms to him and kind of kept him out of trouble, I think, and kept him on the path and actually helped him make the movie, essentially. Make it through the movie, I should say.
I think of Wendy Schaal.
Oh, is it Schaal? Okay, I always thought it was Schaal or something, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Schaal, but yeah, no, that's nice to hear. I mean, Wendy Schaal is so good, but
she's
she's great. I mean, like, you hear her in this, and I'm like, oh, she's doing that. That voice now is synonymous with what is it, American Dad?
American Dad, yeah, she plays Francine on American Dad.
But I obviously love her from Inner Space,
Yep.
and so hilarious in Inner Space as the checker at Lucky's or wherever Martin Short works, the grocery store.
She was
She's
also
great.
in Batteries Not Included, which is a movie I saw in the theater as a kid in 1987, but I have not seen that since. I think our pals over at the Blast from Our Past podcast reviewed it, I'd say a couple of months ago, so go check that out. But that was a movie I liked when I was a kid, but I just haven't seen it in forever.
Yeah, I remember liking it too. There was something about it that I didn't like though. Like there was a dark side to it that I was like kind of sad. I think when the bots get smashed or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was like never into like the super downbeat moments of the movies from the 80s. Like, whoa, what happened? It got so dark so fast. But yeah, she's a super versatile actress. Been in a ton of stuff. Obviously now she does mostly voiceover stuff, but she's great. And then Rick Ducommun, you know, I knew him from the Little Monsters. Little Monsters, he was a great villain in that. And I knew him from a movie and love him from a movie called The Experts. It's John Travolta and Ari Gross, where they play these two club guys who get taken to Russia to kind of make Russia cool. I actually covered it on $2 late fee.
I know that cover. I can see that cover in my head, that poster for it.
Yeah, and he plays a total douchebag dipshit in that. He's great at it.
Dude, it's so weird because, you know, you look through his IMDb, he was in Groundhog Day, he was in Last Action Hero, he's in Last Boy Scout, Hunt for Red October, all these movies that I've seen, and I cannot picture him anywhere in it. And anytime I ever think of him, it's only The Burbs, it's only art from The Burbs, and I just can't even visually picture him in another role.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's been in a ton of stuff.
I know.
But obviously, rest in peace, died very young.
Yeah.
Died at like 62, which, as you guys know, that is not a good run in my book.
No.
You got to make it to like 78.
Yeah,
78 is a good run. Someone who did have a good run, though, was Henry Gibson. He made it to 73. That's a decent run.
Yeah, it's close. I always know him as the head Nazi from the Blues Brothers, but I know where you know him from.
Inner Space, baby.
Baby.
My God, Jack, he's freaking out. He's a manager at Lucky's or something. Oh my God, but he was in Laugh-In. I mean, the guy's a legendary actor.
Yeah.
This movie has a legendary cast.
Yeah.
You know, it's legendary now. I mean, Courtney Gaines is another one who, he's not legendary per se, but that guy has been in a shit ton of movies from, you know, Back to the Future. Well, Children of the Corn is where most people are going to recognize him.
Yeah, anytime you see him, he's the redheaded kid from Malachi from Children of the Corn, right?
Yeah, and then Can't Buy Me Love, who gets dog shit on his porch.
Yeah.
So sad. And you're like, oh, man.
And he's great in this as Hans.
Yeah, he's almost unrecognizable.
Yeah.
Really.
Hey, Pinocchio.
Right? Theodore Gottlieb plays Ruben Klopek.
Hey, Rube. He's fucking great. He's got the greatest angry face I've ever seen.
I mean, that guy he's been in. I mean, he passed away at the age of 94.
Yeah, he rocked.
That's a really good run.
He rocked.
He was in The Invisible Kid, which is a trash movie, by the way. So go seek it out.
Of
obviously.
course.
Yes. Yeah, he's been in things from, you know, way back into we're talking 60s and 50s. So he's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, even further back, like 1946, for crying out loud. But I think he was my brother Theodore.
That's right. That was what it was. Yeah, he had an interesting name. It was a different stage name than
at that point. He must have been like, I don't give a shit. You can put whatever name you want to put on there.
Yeah, it was weird because I remember it was like a proper word and then his name or something, you know.
Yeah, and then there's Gail Gordon, who
did a lot with Lucille Ball back in the day, and there's actually in the movie the pictures that are in his house are him and Lucille Ball, and it's funny. You know, I thought that was great. But he did a lot of her shows back in the day.
That's wild. Yeah, man, that's cool. And then we've got two more regulars from the Dante family, Dick Miller and Robert Picardo. I mean, Robert Picardo, again, like, I mean, they both have been in, I think, every Dante film. But Robert Picardo, I know him as the cowboy from Inner Space.
Of course. And he was also in Explorers. He was in the movie like that they're watching, you know, on the screen or on the drive-in. And then he plays, I don't know if he's in the bodysuit or just the voice, but he plays the alien.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's been in everything. I love Robert Picardo.
And, of course, he was Eddie Quisp in The Howling.
Yeah, he's fantastic. Like small little cameos. Franklin AJ is a detective in the movie. That guy has been in everything. You recognize him from just like, I mean, recently he was in Bridesmaids, but the guy has been in everything from like Stir Crazy to Hollywood Shuffle, which is a great Robert Townsend movie.
Fraternity Vacation.
Yeah, baby. He's just funny. I think he might have been a stand-up comedian.
Okay.
I think that's where he got to start.
Okay.
And Rance Howard, who I believe is related to Ron Howard.
Yep, that's Ron Howard's dad. Yep, I talked about that on Cartwright because he pops up twice on Seinfeld. Once with Newman at like a farm, and then earlier on when George loses his glasses, he was in it. Plays two different characters. But yeah, nice. Rance Howard is Ron and Clint Howard's dad.
Rance Howard.
Rance.
Did you recognize one of Feldman's buddies?
Fuck yeah, Steve Kuntz, fucking Nicky Cat from so many bit parts, little things like I remember the episode of Friends he was on. He had a small role in Dark Knight. Like he has all these like he pops up in these little roles. Kind of plays a dick a lot of times, you know. But he was in the movie that I absolutely adore, which is Way of the Gun.
Way of the Gun is great. He's great in that. He's great in The Limey. I highly recommend that movie. That movie kicks ash. He plays a dick a lot.
Yeah, he's got
he's good at it.
He's got a huge head of hair in this too. And the thing is, here's another little cut for you. His other buddy who has the tie-dye shirt, that guy's name is Billy Stevenson, spelled the same way as I do. And the only reason I discovered him was through Workaholics. And I love that show. They kind of make fun of him on that show. He's kind of a weirdo. And I noticed, when I was looking at that show, I was like, huh, his name is Stevenson. So like, let me go look him up on IMDb, and he's like balding now and everything. But in here, and I was like, he's in the Burbs, and yeah, he's just one of Ricky's friends. And you can see he's got these deep blue eyes and kind of a weird, oddly shaped head. But he's in there. But he definitely is in Workaholics if you've ever seen that show.
That's wild, man. Yeah, that's wild. You think those two guys, maybe that was their first gig, but like Nicky Cat, by the way, he was in TV series back in the early 80s.
Yeah.
He was on Voyagers for one episode, and then he was on the TV series V, and he was in Gremlins. When like these are all like kid roles. He was in the Get Along Gang. Get Along Gang, Get Along Gang.
It really does make you realize that in Hollywood, they say that anyone can become famous, but that's not really true. You kind of have to either know somebody or be in the business pretty much your entire life. And yet you still, like Nicky Cat, like you're still not like a leading man. And yet you've been working. He's working, which is great, but he's been working his entire life.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Pretty wild shit.
It's weird, wild stuff.
Weird, wild stuff. What am I thinking of? The Burbs.
The Burbs. But yeah, dude, you're right. This cast is crazy. It's a crazy cast of who's who. But at the same time, it doesn't feel like the movie tries to like linger on anybody. The movie's about the story, and I think that's what makes it so much fun.
Right.
And Zach, who did the score for this?
The one, the only Jerry Goldsmith. He passed away in 2004, but that guy is a legendary composer for movies like LA Confidential and Inner Space. and Congo.
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 I saw that movie in the theater too, by the way.
Oh my God. I mean, I'm gonna pop out a few from this era. And I just have to say, he did do Inner Space, but he's not credited as the conductor for Inner Space. But I mean, like, if you go into his filmography, the movies he's worked on in some degree, I'm just gonna list off. So, like, maybe helped arrange. If he didn't do the score, maybe he helped out with the score. Extreme Prejudice, Rambo, Alien Nation, like Poltergeist 2. Like, he helped out with Legend,
Twilight
Runaway.
Zone, the movie.
Twilight Zone, the movie.
Secret of Nim.
Yes, and then of course Deep Rising. So I mean, like, Poltergeist 1, like the guy is a legendary film composer. Rest in peace, Jerry Goldsmith. Delivers a great score. At times, I'm like, he's doing some Italian giallo shit. At one point,
my favorite part is when the camera follows Queenie at the very beginning, follows Queenie from Walter's house to Rumsfeld's front yard, and the music goes from this it incorporates like this weird barking sound into it. It's like bah, 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 and it's like he like kind of turns the music into the dog's theme, and I'm like, this is fucking so much fun and so genius.
Yes, yeah, I think that's the exact same scene that I wrote down too, where I was like, this is fantastic music.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy's legendary.
Yeah, it's so much fun. And like the other comedy movies that we've done before, this one took a while to break down because it's a lot of, dialogue that you're tracking and everything. But man, oh man, was I having a blast doing it. So you want to jump into this thing, man? Because I think we're gonna go for a while on this one.
Yeah, let's jump into The Burbs.
All Tom Hanks wanted was a quiet vacation at home.
This is what I need, Carol. I need this.
Welcome to Mayfield Place. A typical street in the Burbs.
Morning, Walter.
Where nothing much ever happened.
Walter's dog just took a dump on Rumsfeld's lawn again.
Until the Klopeks moved in.
Klopex?
Klopex. Klopek. No one goes in, no one comes out.
Neighbors from hell.
It was a nice place to live.
He said he thinks the Klopex are evil incarnate.
Well, you're much too smart to fall for that, aren't you, honey?
But now,
Carol!
you wouldn't want to visit there.
Ray, this is Walter.
The Burbs.
I'm going over the fence, and I'm not coming back till I find a dead body.
Ray, do you want him to take your family, kidnap them, tear their livers out, and make some kind of satanic pate? We found Walter!
We got a real problem.
I hit the gas line, I'd run!
God, I love this street.
Tom Hanks.
I think we are overreacting.
No. The Burbs. It's one hell of a neighborhood.
Hey, honey, I think we should move.
The movie starts with the Universal logo. I know you love that, buddy.
Been a while.
But then the Universal title fades away, and we see the Earth spinning in space. And by the way, I love it when movies incorporate the logo of the production company. Like in Raiders of the Lost Ark, how it turns into the mountain that they're looking at and all that kind of stuff.
Like Sonic the Hedgehog.
Sure. Hey, I've heard good things about Sonic. I haven't seen it yet.
I've seen both. They're decent. But
Okay.
This is not a video game movie show.
I like that you use the word decent, and I literally just lost interest right when you.
No, they're good.
Okay.
They're passable.
The camera flies down into North America and eventually lands on a suburban cul-de-sac at night with the credits playing over it. And I love the use of miniatures here at the beginning. It almost kind of reminds me of that awesome HBO bumper miniatures they used to do back in the day.
Took the dick right out of my mouth. Yep. He was going to say the same. I got it in my notes right here.
We eventually focus on a rundown old house nestled between cleaner houses. There are flashes of light coming from the basement of the old house and weird noises. We hear Carrie Fisher, ask Ray where he's going and to come back to bed. You hear it sort of from the house next door. We see Ray, Tom Hanks, walk barefoot across his lawn and step right onto the property line of the old house next door. He looks around the neighborhood and sees a shadowy figure watching him from a bedroom window across the street. The figure lights a cigarette. Ray turns back to the old house as the noise from the basement gets louder. He looks down at his feet and you can see a very clear line between his yard and the neighbor's. Ray's yard is green and mowed, but the other side is dead and brown. As soon as he steps 1 foot on the other yard, a strong wind picks up and blows Ray back. He stares at the old house for a few moments, then walks back to his. I love this setup because it sets up like a supernatural aspect to it, but there's no supernaturalness to it. I just love that it skirts that line.
Yeah, me too. Because you're automatically going into this, oh, it's Tom Hanks, it's going to be a comedy. And I think that's probably why it got panned by some people. But you know what? It's a great setup to a freaky film.
Yeah, I know you kind of said you liked it at the beginning, but you didn't really sort of delve into it too much. But you enjoyed your time with it this time?
Oh, I enjoyed it more now than I did when I was a kid. Yeah. I think I was expecting more laughs and less kind of drama when I was a kid. So, yeah, I don't think I enjoyed it that much back then, but I enjoyed it a lot more now.
And as you get older, we can relate to a lot of things in it.
So many of these movies I appreciate more so now than I did then. And then kind of the flip with other movies like Explorers.
Yeah, some movies.
I want to so bad.
We both do, buddy. We both
Gremlins. Do. Gremlins is really good, but let's be honest, guys. There's moments in Gremlins when you're like Zach Galligan, just like seriously, drip.
Yeah.
Drip.
Yeah, I was never the biggest fan of his growing up. And I do watch Gremlins occasionally at Christmas time, but mostly I sort of lean towards Scrooged and stuff, you know?
Yeah. I mean, come on. Like, let's call... I know already people are like, what? You dissing him? And then I'm going to say Waxwork is not very good. Go, oh, God. Crystal and Aaron are both like, I'm going to kill you now. No, come on, guys. Come on. By the way, I just put 3 and 4 together that Feldman was in Gremlins. So
yep.
That tracks.
Yep, he was. Yep, he totally was.
He's a Dante reg.
Yep. The next day, we see the cul-de-sac vibrant and alive. A kid is delivering the newspaper from his bike. Joe Dante uses him to introduce us to a couple main characters who all live on the dead-end road. First, we see Ray. Ray puts out his hand to catch the newspaper, but the kid just fucking chucks it right at his arm as if trying to knock out the coffee mug from his hand. And I love how Ray fucking just tosses the coffee at the kid in frustration.
So funny.
Next, we see Walter. He's holding his dog Queenie. By the way, Queenie was also Precious in Silence of the Lambs.
Precious. And also look alike for Aaron Don Gilmer's dog.
Right? Yeah. The paper kid... The
paper boy!
The paper almost hits him in the head, and he yells at the kid. Walter then puts his dog down, and it runs straight to Rumsfield's front yard to take a shit. And this is where I noticed that the music changes to this weird dog barking thing, but it's not a dog barking. He's like kind of mimicking it with the instruments. I think it's fantastic.
It's really cool. Yeah.
Ray watches Queenie do her dirty deed. Ray
looks
says
like real shit.
Yeah, that's a nasty shit too. Ray says good morning to Walter, but is miffed when he doesn't get a response. Queenie runs back to her home. Next, we see Ricky, Corey Feldman, walking up to his house from the garage with 3 cans of white paint. He places them on some speakers he has on his wrapped around porch and turns on the music, spills some paint on the speakers.
Yeah, why not?
By the way, that house, Ricky's house, was the Munsters house, and from the 1968, and Ray and Carol's house is the Leave It to Beaver house, the Cleaver house.
Oh, nice. And then the Slavic's house is...
blown up. Walter's house is apparently the only house still the same house on that back lot, and this is Universal back lot is where they filmed it.
Yeah.
There's a shot later when Bruce Dern's sitting on the roof of his house, and you can totally see it's Burbank in the back, behind him and everything. And this is supposed to be like Ohio, I think, or not Ohio. I'm sorry, like Michigan or something.
Yeah, I love it though. I love that it's all in. Yeah, I love that you could see that. I was like, I know where that is, and this is not the Midwest.
Yeah, because it's got that feel like I always love in the old Hammer films how like outdoors were sets, and I like that. This feels like one of those things. Like it feels like a set because it is a set, but it feels like it in a good way.
Yeah, no, I love my sets. See Fright Night, for example.
Yep, exactly. And that was also the Universal backlot as well.
Yep.
He turns on them, so he puts the places the paint on the speaker, spills some. Then he turns on some music, and we hear "War Machine" by Circus of Power playing while Rumsfeld, and I just call him Rumsfeld, even though it's his last name. His name's Mark Rumsfeld, and his wife Bonnie, but I just call him Rumsfeld, played by Bruce Dern, walks out of his front door wearing just a vest jacket, shorts, and combat boots. Were you a fan of War Machine by Circus of Power?
No, I'm not. Okay. I'm not a fan of the songs in this movie. They're very generic to me.
Okay.
Which is a shame because I feel like Dante's used better songs in other movies. Case in point, Inner Space, one of the best soundtracks of that time. Sam Cooke. Could have used I don't know. I bet you just couldn't get. Maybe they couldn't afford Kiss, or that would have been cool. Or
I always assume there's some kind of rights they couldn't get a hold of, something more maybe poppy, or not poppy, but like mainstreamy type of thing, something that would get you going.
Yeah, I'm like 89. They could have had, Winger or Def Leppard or some shit like that. Because he's clearly like a hair metal guy.
Yeah, exactly. Rumsfeld surveys the neighborhood and puts his sunglasses on like a badass. I also noticed that this is the shot where we see, directed by Joe Dante, like appears right on his chest. And I'm calling it out because I think that says a lot about like maybe where Joe Dante was who he was relating to in this movie, or where he wanted to really punch it in. But to put his name right across Bruce Dern's chest like that, it has to mean something,
Yeah, maybe just like that was one of his more favorite characters in the movie.
Yeah. His wife Bonnie, played by Wendy Shaw, right?
Wendy Shaw.
Okay. Walks out in her nightgown and hands him a folded American flag. Ricky says hi to Mr. and Mrs. Rumsfeld, but only Bonnie replies. Mr. Rumsfeld puts the flag on the flagpole and presses a button. The flag ascends while Rumsfeld steps back and salutes. As he's doing so, Ricky calls out for him to watch out for the shit Queenie left, but he steps right in it. Rumsfeld angrily hops towards Walter's house while Ricky laughs and says, "I love that dude." And I love how much Ricky loves Rumsfeld.
Yeah, he does. No, by the way, Rumsfeld, no relation to Donald Rumsfeld.
Right, exactly.
Well, maybe he is.
Well, and also, he's Rumsfeld, whereas Rumsfeld is Feld.
True. Yeah.
Across the street, Ray is watching Rumsfeld run across the street yelling at Walter. Carol asks what he's doing up. Walter's dog just took a dump on Rumsfeld's lawn again. He laughs. Outside, Rumsfeld is yelling at Walter's house that his dog has taken his last dump on his lawn. If he finds one more, he's going to catch Queenie and staple her ass shut. Bonnie is trying to get him back inside. Queenie starts barking from the window, and Rumsfeld almost loses his shit. Love it. Right out of the gate, funny. I fucking love it. I'm sorry. I don't know why. I love how angry he is all the time.
Because he's a Republican.
Yes, exactly. Fucking exactly.
I have to pick a fight with everybody.
Exactly, which is why I think nowadays he's a scary character, but back in 89, he's a goofy old kook, right?
Yep. Yeah, we're like, this guy's not going to take over the country.
He's harmless. Wrong.
He's in the minority. Yeah, but that shouldn't matter, should it? No.
Welcome to 2022, gentlemen. Mm-hmm. Ladies and gentlemen.
By the way, Hanks in this movie, like, this is early on when I noticed this, I thought Jason Bateman has become the new Tom Hanks.
Okay, I can see that.
He's the everyman that we can totally relate to now.
That can do comedy and drama.
Yes, unlike Tom Hanks, who, just nah.
I don't have anything against Tom Hanks, but I never go out of my way to like see his movies, but he never bars me from watching a movie, you know?
If I had to choose between a Tom Hanks movie now and a Jason Bateman movie now, I would go Jason Bateman full tilt.
Yeah.
Without even blinking.
Yeah, no, it's the same, dude. Fucking same. Inside Ray's house, he's telling Carol that he thinks they should move. They have an arms dealer across the street and a crazy person down it, and all they ever do is fight. Their son is eating breakfast at the table, and Carol is making something in the kitchen.
Remember what he's You notice what he's eating, by the way?
Like Gremlinos or something like that?
Yeah, Gremlin cereal, which was a real thing. And then later on, I think Hanks is eating Freakies.
Freakies. Yeah, I remember the Freakies. I never saw the Gremlin cereal, but cereals that I loved back in the day, the C-3POs, the Batman cereal, the Ghostbuster cereal that came with the glow-in-the-dark Frisbee, the Mr. T cereal, and the Nerds cereal that had the two different sides to it.
Yeah, and the Gremlins was a real cereal as well.
I did not know that, dude.
Same like corn syrup, corn crap,
yeah.
corn.
They all come from the same
corn.
thing. They just print them in different shapes, essentially.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it does the same thing to your insides.
Tears it apart.
Yep. Gives you cavities.
Yep. Ray goes on. Now these next door neighbors, the Klopeks. Is that a Slavic name? That's going to be an ongoing gag. They've been here a month. Think they're going to do something about their yard? They both stare out the window at the old house. Then Carol turns around and looks at all the food she's making and asks, "Are you going to eat any of this?" Ray says no. He has a thing on with his stomach again. Carol looks annoyed and says, "I knew this was going to happen." Ray presses her about what she knew was going to happen, and she says, "It's already started. You're going to sit around the house all week doing nothing. Get bored out of your mind and go back to work in worse shape than you are now." Ray disagrees, but Carol insists they pack up the car and go to the lake and get some rest. He doesn't think the lake is relaxing. It's 4 hours of driving on the tollway in holiday traffic to sit in some dank, wet cabin and wait for the neighbor with the enormous head to get drunk and fall down the stairs. Carol cuts him off and says,
"He's a hydrocephalic, and I don't think you should make fun of him." But Corey did earlier, so...
Yes, I did. Ray says that's not his idea of being restful. Being lazy and hanging around the house is restful, and at the end of the week, he'll be a brand new human being. Carol just says, "It's your vacation," which comes off like it's your funeral. Now, Zach, what's your idea of a vacation? Is it doing a lot of stuff, like having it packed to the gills of things to do, or do you like to chill and relax a bit more?
Well, if my wife loves to pack it all in, and then I love to sit by a pool and drink a tasty bev. So
and listen to some cool tunes.
We enlist some cool tunes. We find a nice compromise, but I will say my birthday is like a week. We're recording this like a week before my birthday, and I like to sit by the pool on my birthday and just have my feet in the water and have a drink in my hand and some listening to some of my favorite tunes, and I'm good to go, baby.
Like Boogie Nights, you're a simple man, right?
I'm a simple man. I like butter in my mouth and lollipops in my ass.
I knew you were gonna threw it at you. I knew you were gonna catch that one, buddy.
I'm a simple man. I like $1 in my hand. No, but that I tell you, in that pool scene in Boogie Nights, I would just be chilling in the pool.
Yeah. I'm kind of like, I probably lean a little bit more towards you. I don't want things to always be packed in, but I also can't just sit around doing like sort of nothing all day. And I know that's not what you said, but like I do want to still like do some stuff. But yeah, I don't want it to be packed from like the moment I wake up to the moment I go to sleep when I'm on vacation. That's just too much.
Yeah, my vacation for my birthday will literally be just sitting by the pool and then watching Cloak and Dagger.
That's awesome.
And then probably a Bat or a $2 late fee movie in the evening once Bodie's asleep.
Because work never ends.
Work. Hello, boys.
Hello, boys.
Where were you last night? I missed you.
Outside in their backyard, we see a man with a hunting rifle emerge from the bushes. He has a branch around his neck for camouflage. Ray's dog Vince goes running and barking at him, but he just shushes it. The man takes aim at a crow perched on top of a fake owl and fires his gun. He misses the bird, but blows the head off the old owl statue. Inside the house, Ray says, Art's got a gun, and hurries for the door. Outside, Art keeps firing at the crow as it flies past Ray and almost hits him in the head. Ray looks startled, but all Art says is, "Hi, Ray. You guys eating in there?"
And that backyard is disgusting, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
It's disgusting.
Which one? The Ray's backyard?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. It looks gross. It looks totally just I don't know, filthy to me. I'm like, it looks very, very trashy. I wrote that down. I'm like, the backyard is a mess. You go back and watch it. It's really just it looks dilapidated back there.
Well, maybe he should have been spending his vacation using his new tools to clean it up.
Yeah. Instead of reading scripts for fucking all the dramas he's going to make a few years from now.
For Castaway.
Yeah.
Wilson!
He went from silly, funny, laughing in Money Pit to guttural crying in Castaway. Castaway's a good movie. I'm not going to diss it, but I'm just meh, give me this.
I've seen it once. I don't care. I don't care about Castaway, to be honest with you.
Yep.
Yep. Zach's like, I'm not going to defend it. I don't care either.
No, I mean, whatever. Don't, all you listeners, don't go tell us that you have these movies on DVD. Or if you do, don't tell us that you watch them on a regular basis. You don't. You don't watch Forrest Gump anymore. You'd much rather watch The Burbs 3 or 4 times than Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump is not a, nah.
You don't watch Titanic anymore. And I agree with you. I fucking hate Forrest Gump. Hate that fucking movie.
I don't hate it, but it just did not deserve the Academy Award for Best Picture the same year that Shawshank Redemption came out.
Yeah.
Masterpiece of a movie.
Yeah, no. Forrest Gump, I loathe it. To quote Newman from Seinfeld. Cut to Art, Rick Ducommun. Jesus, why can't I say his last name, dude?
Ducommun,
Jesus Christ.
I'm probably Pokemon. Just think Pokemon.
Ah, okay, all right. Cut
Rick
to
Ducommun.
Art, Rick Ducommun at the breakfast table. There you go.
Ducommun.
All right, for a third time. I don't know if I'm going to cut the first two, but I'm going to try it again.
Cut this. It's funny.
Cut to Art, Rick Ducommun.
Ducommun.
Pokemon.
Gotta catch them all.
Pokemon. Did I say it right or did I say it wrong just then?
Pokemon.
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 Fuck me. Cut to Art at the breakfast table.
Just cut to Art.
Eating their food. Carol replaces the empty dish with a new one, while Art talks about how his wife hates the crows using her bird feeder, so he got the gun to pop a few of them.
His wife hates him too, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, and I don't think he likes his wife either. Ray asks why Art didn't go with his wife to her mother's house for the holiday week. Art replies with, "Hey, I'm eating here, okay? Can you imagine me and the two of them alone for a week? I'd rather chew broken glass. This is going to be a big week for the bachelor kid." Dude, I feel so bad for people who hate their in-laws that much, you know?
Or just hate their life that they're living.
Yeah.
You know, come on. I remember watching this when I was a kid, thinking how annoying he was, and I'm never gonna have a neighbor like that. Now I do. So you know, yeah, you do know. People who complain about their life all the time. No, fix it, change it.
And you watch this movie, and as we get older, you realize the different archetypes that they're trying to
totally.
They're all different archetypes, and yeah. We all know an Art. We all know them, and he's almost like a proto Kramer-esque type of character. Yeah. You know, he always comes over just to eat the food and steal everything and consume resources, essentially.
Kramer was just a better dude, though. I think at the end of the day, Kramer had a better heart.
Yes, agreed. Kramer's a better human being at the end of the day. Yeah, Cosmo Kramer.
If he only was like that in real life.
Exactly.
You know, my ex-wife dated Michael Richards.
Didn't she also date Mark Ruffalo, too? Or was she just
friends
with
was
him?
Best friends with Mark Ruffalo.
Who you have a beef with. So, you and Mark Ruffalo do not like each other.
No, he just doesn't remember me, and even though he was like part of my wedding, so
He can go fuck himself. How about that?
But who's the guy who plays Chandler on Friends? What's this guy? Matthew Perry?
Yeah, Matthew Perry.
Yeah, she was like BFFs with him / maybe dated him for a minute.
Okay. But she dated Michael Richards, though?
She did for a minute and confirmed that he was angry and racist back then, too.
Jesus Christ.
Before he had his tirade. So,
well,
you heard it here first. Exclusive.
Well, I still love Seinfeld, and you and I have talked extensively about how we attempt, not always successfully, but we try to keep the person away from the character. But at the
Kramer is not Michael Richards. Kramer is Kramer.
Exactly.
And I love him in UHF. So,
and just like how, like, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger didn't kill 200 people in Commando. You know what I mean? Like,
he's not have sex with his nanny, so or his maid.
Yeah,
Get
but I'm saying
pregnant.
he's not John Matrix. You know what I mean? And yes, and Michael Richards is not Kramer. You know?
No, and Riggs Riggs is Riggs.
Yeah,
it's not Mel Gibson. It's Riggs.
Exactly.
It's Riggs. If there was a GI Joe Riggs figure, I would buy the Riggs figure. Mm-hmm. But I wouldn't be like, "Oh, I'm playing with Mel Gibson." I'd be like, "I'm playing with Riggs."
Same for Max Rockatansky.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go,
You'd
babe.
be like, I'm playing with Max Rockatansky in my pocket. He's my pocket hero. By the way, those little action figures used to be called pocket heroes.
Yeah. I'm glad we moved away from that phrasing.
Corey's like, you know what my pocket hero is? My hand.
My hand. Hey, hero. Okay, so back to the movie. As Art is saying this, Carol walks by with the dog bowl and sort of doesn't see him grab a handful, and he shoves it into his own mouth thinking it's human food. He looks disgusted, but he eats
hilarious.
it and then asks why Ray isn't at work.
Hilarious scene.
It is.
Hilarious moment.
It is. Ray says he took the week off. Art asks if they're going to the lake, but Ray says he just wants to hang around the house and relax. Art says good luck with those maniacs you got living next door. Carol asks if he's met the Klopeks yet, but he says no. Nobody on the block has. But he did talk to the real estate broad that sold them the house. Their last one burnt to the ground, a hideous raging inferno. Ray says neighbors from hell. And yeah, I love how he's like, the real estate broad. Art says, whatever it is, I'm sure glad I'm not the one who lives right next door to them. I mean, let's face it, these Klopeks are strange. As he takes more food, including a full pineapple, out of their fridge to eat. Art goes on. I've been watching the house since the day they moved in. No one goes in, no one comes out. No visitors, no deliveries. What do you think they're eating over there, Ray? Ray says that maybe they just want to keep to themselves. Remember when the Knapps lived next door? How many conversations did you have with the Knapps? I had 2. They didn't even say goodbye when they moved, which we find out later why.
Yep.
Art says at least they were semi-normal. They worked in their yard. They mowed their lawn. They had a lawn to mow. Then he takes a bite out of cold leftover ribs from the fridge and goes on. These Klopeks, we don't even know how many of them there are. Ray's son Dave interrupts Art and says there are 3 of them and they only come out at night. Ricky Butler says they're nocturnal feeders. Last week when I was up on the roof with my telescope, I saw them in their backyard. Carol asks what they were doing. He says digging, and then takes a bite out of his apple. And I like how there's a cool shot of like him eating the apple, like face to face with Art, who's eating the ribs, and they're kind of both eating at the same time. And at the same time, Art takes a bite out of his cold ribs and says to Dave with a full mouth, kind of like grave diggers. Dave says maybe. Ray says that's enough and ends the conversation by telling Dave that he wants him to stop spying on the Klopeks and for Art to stop filling his head with crazy theories. Ray leaves the room to put on his vacation togs as Art keeps eating and Carol looks annoyed.
The thing I took away from this scene was that I haven't had ribs in years, and I wanted a rib sandwich so bad on white bread with mayonnaise and mustard.
Ooh, sounds good, buddy. Sounds real
just
good.
Slice that. Oh, just slice it off and warm it up just a little bit so it's softer.
Mm-hmm. Of course, yeah, of course. Oh.
But I'm like watching that, going, I haven't had ribs. I haven't had red meat in over a decade, and I'm just like, oh, that looks really good.
So behind the scenes, apparently Tom Hanks didn't want to have a kid character because he was apparently, according to IMDb, like the trivia and stuff, apparently he was concerned about the image of him playing a dad, because he hadn't up until this point, and he kind of wanted also for him and Carol's characters, or him and Carrie Fisher's characters, to be kind of like a different kind of parents, or suburbanites, not parents, but just like a husband and a wife. But I think they made the right choice in having him have a kid, because I think what works the best about this is how stereotypical all the couples are. I think it's the stereotypes juxtaposed with the crazy wackiness that goes on is what makes it work. But I also think that's why you really don't see Dave the kid in it much, and I always even forget that he has a kid in the movie.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Yeah, like the kid kind of humanizes him a little bit versus being a wacko.
But he's almost the kid's almost a non-entity in the movie, though.
Yeah, but there's always that idea in the back of his mind that maybe the reason why he's so irritable all the time is because he has an annoying son.
There you go. There you go. You heard it here, folks.
I didn't say that about mine.
No, I know. No, fucking Bodhi's the best, dude. No, we all know that. Bodhi rocks. We all know that. Outside, Mr. and Mrs. Rumsfeld are working on their front lawn. Bonnie is wearing a two-piece outfit, and Mr. Rumsfeld is wearing a full gardening outfit. I know. She's talking about gardening, but he's not listening. He's just staring at Walter's perfect yard. Boy,
She's
that
talking
really
about her zinnias.
Huh?
She's talking about her zinnias.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There you go. Well, Ricky's gonna be looking at her zinnias soon.
Mm-hmm.
But boy, that really burns my ass. That old fart, he's got the best lawn on the block. But of course, we see a shot of Walter standing in front of his lawn holding Queenie while a lawn service guy sprays it with chemicals. So, it's just one of those things where he's rich. He just doesn't even do it himself,
Yep.
Rumsfeld continues, and you know why? Because he trains his dog to crap in my yard. We see Ricky looking at Bonnie's backside as she's bent over gardening. Hey, Mrs. Rumsfeld. No tan line this morning. Looks nice. And she smiles back at him while Mr. Rumsfeld just looks at her and says, that kid next door is a meatball. But she loves her some Ricky, though. Or she loves the attention from Ricky.
I mean, he's old enough.
Yeah, Did you have any hot neighbors growing up as a kid in your neighborhood?
Unfortunately, no. Oh, Terry Hatcher lived on the other side of the fence from me.
Okay.
Not lying.
Where was this? In
Sunnyvale. Sunnyvale.
Okay.
Yep. She went to Homestead, and then I saw her decades later, and I said that to her, and then I found out that's where she was, unfortunately assaulted or something bad happened, and it was like, oh, sorry, did not mean to open up that wound,
but I was your neighbor. I
was your
didn't
neighbor.
Do the assaulting. I was a kid.
I was just like a teenager.
Jesus.
Yeah, Terry Hatcher. She lived on the other side of my fence.
Okay. I had a hot neighbor across the street too. But I had famously my high school had no hot teachers whatsoever. All uggos, every last one of them. That sucked.
But you had Sean Whalen at your school. So.
I did, but that was 12 years before me. So.
Yeah. But if you're interested, guys, check out Sean Whalen.
Yeah.
The interview we did with him. It's great.
Yeah. Across the street, Ray and Art come out of Ray's garage. Rumsfeld says to Bonnie, Peterson, he came out in his robe last night when the foreigners were making all that racket. He didn't do one thing. Cut to a closer shot of Ray and Art in the garage. Art asks what he's going to do on his vacation. Ray says he's thinking about building something with the new tools he got from Carol's dad for Christmas. Art is barely paying attention because he's too busy staring at Bonnie in her outfit gardening across the street. Ray and Art shoot the shit as Art walks down Ray's driveway. Just then, Art notices the youngest Klopek, Courtney Gaines, walk out of the old house and tells Ray to come out to the street. Ray stands next to Art in the street as they both look at the kid on the porch. Art says, what is it? Ray says, it's my neighbor. And that's the awesome writing that I fucking love. And as a kid, didn't that's the subtle shit that went over my head. What is it? It's my neighbor. I love that shit.
Yeah, no, it's very well written, making you think, oh, did the guy who wrote George of the Jungle write this? Yeah, surprisingly.
Did you? I didn't see that, but I remember it. Like, did you ever see it?
Oh man. And I love people who are like, oh, I love Brendan Fraser. No, you didn't. You didn't love Brendan Fraser. You didn't.
You loved Encino Man because it inhabited a certain period of time, and Pauly Shore was in it, and we all loved. We fell in love with Brendan Fraser in The Mummy. That was where everyone liked Brendan Fraser.
He was good in that.
Yeah.
Pauly Shore is the best thing about Encino Man, and that's it.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I hate Encino Man. I hate that.
So do I.
Because
I think Sean Astin is a dipshit in that movie. He's a douche. He's a douche.
And here's the thing: as I've gotten older, I look.
Pauly Shore's great.
I look back sort of fondly on Pauly Shore, but when I was a kid, I didn't really gravitate towards Pauly Shore when I was younger.
Really?
Yeah.
I like him. I like that Pauly Shore. I tapped out after Son-in-Law, I think.
You know who I was more into at that age? And I don't think they're in the same category, but I was a big Chris Elliott fan when I was younger.
Yeah. I mean, Chris Elliott's awesome. Definitely more our style of humor now.
Yeah.
But there was a charm about Pauly Shore when he would be like, like when he would get in trouble or something. It's fucking funny.
And I agree with you now, but I didn't feel that way when I was younger. But I completely agree with you now, and I look back and I'm like, you know what? I actually kind of dig Pauly Shore stuff now. Like if I go back and rewatch it.
I used to listen to his comedy album on cassette. Nice. That one and the Dice album on repeat. Yeah. And I would get in trouble. They're like, what are you listening to? I'm like, nothing. I got in trouble because I was listening to Dice. My teacher asked me what it was and found out Dice.
Yeah. My probably favorite comedy album of all time was the Adam Sandler one with the goat and everything. I probably listened to that one.
Is that the one where he is smoking weed from a pencil shaving? And they're like, the guy's like, I'm so high right now. Yeah. I'm so high, buddy. And he's like, are you so high? Because those are pencil shavings. Really? I thought it was marijuana, man. I think it's like him and David Spade.
Yeah, and this is where we did like the longest piss and everything. It was
yeah,
great.
Dude, that's a funny. Yeah,
dude.
Comedy albums.
I still quote the goat, man. I'm like, they fucking superimposed me, man. What am I gonna do? I'm a goat. I love the goat.
Oh shit!
Quick goat thinking. I love it. I still say that. I still say quick goat thinking sometimes.
That's great.
Rumsfeld notices the scene and says, "Hey, one of the Huns came out of the cave." Bonnie looks up and lowers
one of the
her
Huns. I fucking love that line. Yeah. One of the Huns came out of the cave. Attila the Hun.
I'm telling you, dude. Everyone in the neighborhood, including Walter, Ricky, and Dave, stops what they're doing to look at the Klopek's house. We see from Hans's point of view as he surveys everyone on the street looking at him. Queenie barks at him. Art says to Ray, "Why don't you go say hi? This would be the perfect time to go up and talk to him and see what he's like. Go." Ray kind of like looks scared. You could go say hi to him too. They proceed to fight about whose neighbor he is as the young Klopek slowly walks back into his house. Art tells Ray that he blew it and starts calling him chicken and making chicken clucking sounds. He says, it's what an asshole. He says, "You know you look like a chicken in front of your son and everything." This pisses Ray off, and he grabs Art by the sleeve, and they both march up to the old house. That's kind of a dick move, like saying, like, you look like a chicken in front of your son. I can see why, as I get older, I see why that would really galvanize Ray and piss him off. And I don't think that was Art's intent. I think he was just being a dick.
Yeah, there's some, like you were talking about earlier, there's some kind of stereotypical tropes that go on in this, and that's one of them. It's like, don't be a wimp in front of your kids.
Yeah. Don't be a chicken. You know, they're I mean, at the same time, they're also clearly like kind of like high school kids, you know, and that's
totally
the trope that even grown men sort of act like kids still, you know, and that's this whole movie is based on that essentially.
Oh yeah, big time.
Rumsfeld, with a smirk on his face, says to his wife, "They're daring each other to ring the doorbell." Back at the front yard of the house, Ray is yelling at Art, "Why don't we both go say hello? Or you chicken?" Ricky yells from his yard, "Go for it, Mr. Peterson, yeah!" Art and Ray turn around and see the whole neighborhood watching them. Art throws down his gum and says, "Okay, I'll go with you. Sure, right, okay, no problem." They take a breath and start walking up to the front door. Art looks around as the wind picks up and suspenseful music starts playing.
This is the part where this is the part where the music was totally Giallo Morricone inspired. I was like, ooh, he's channeling some 70s Italian horror right now.
And I was gonna say at 89, that would be a perfect influence. Giallo films would be a perfect influence on this.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I think it's obvious. I'd love to get David's thoughts on this. I think David Irons, you watch this scene and you're like, oh yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, he definitely is the authority on that genre of horror.
He's the authority on a lot of things.
Go check out Seven Winters Alone. Go check out the hundreds of other amazing horror novels that David has written. He is prolific. He is amazing, and we love him to death.
If you go to the beach this summer and you're reading a book on the beach, as many people do, and you think you want to look cool, people are like reading the new Oprah book, whatever her pick is, and people are, and that's cool. Like people will be like, oh yeah, you're reading the new Drop My Flowers on 34th Street, or whatever by Shananana. But you could be reading a book by David Irons by the beach, and people would be like, excuse me, sir, excuse me, ma'am. Excuse me, they, him, whatever. What are you reading? And they'd be like, I'm reading Polybius by David Irons. I'm reading Seven Winters Alone by David Irons. I'm reading
Don't Go to Wheelchair Camp by David Irons.
Any of one of his books. And suddenly they'll be like, are you single? And they'll go, yes. And they say, well, do you want to hang out sometime? Yes, I would.
In a love connection.
Yes. Or if they say, are you single? And you're like, I'm not single. They'd be like, well, that's cool too. But you know what? That book is awesome. It looks great. I should check it out.
And it has a great cover by Suspiria Land.
Oh my God. And people are going to be like, where'd you get that? Just go check out David Irons' books in Suspiria Land. It's all good.
Yeah. Hey everybody, Corey here. I just want to let you know that we'll be right back after these short messages.
Imagine being one of the last people on Earth, being trapped alone with something not human, something always watching, something always waiting. What would you do? Where would you run? Where would you hide if you were haunted for 7 Winters Alone?
Podcasting After Dark presents 7 Winters Alone, a dystopian haunted house story by David Irons.
Available now in paperback and ebook.
And now, back to the show. And I do love this. I love how the camera quickly dollies in on everyone's eyes that are watching them, like an old Western film, like a spaghetti Western.
Morricone, Sergio Leone.
As they're walking up to the front door, Art's foot goes right through the porch floor and he falls over. One of 2 porch pranks. Ray says he's in pain for that. Art says we should sue them. Ray bangs on the door and it causes the last digit in the house's wall number, 669, to fall over and turn into 666. Ray bangs again, and the frame holding the street number falls over, knocking out the light under it and revealing a mess of bees in the wall. The bees attack Art and Ray as they run into the street screaming. Rumsfeld thinks on his feet and tells Bonnie to get the gardening hose. He tells them to run to him as he's running towards them. But the hose isn't long enough, and Rumsfeld is pulled backwards and lands on his ass. Hilarious. Ricky cracks up. Zach cracks up.
It's relatable, because I was attacked by hornets once.
Oh, okay. And just spraying them down with water gets them out. Like, especially if they're all in your clothes and shit like that, which is what's happening here.
Well, I was running a summer camp, and they attacked all the kids at camp, and I didn't have water to put on them. So I was pulling them off. I was pulling the hornets off of the kids with my bare hands and crushing them with my bare hands.
Were your hands swollen afterwards from all the stings?
I got stung 10 times. One of my kids got stung 13 times.
Jesus.
The kid who aggravated the hornets, that made all the hornets come out, he didn't get stung once.
Of course. Of course.
But they chased us in. The hornets chased us into the house And I kid you not, I killed 30 hornets that day.
Dude.
Stepping on them and with my bare hands.
Hornets are no fucking joke, man. No joke.
They'll just keep going. Da, 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 da. So this scene, as funny as it is, I'm like, relatable.
Zach's kind of like cowering and shaking in the corner as the scene is playing.
Yeah, there's a lot of like this whole movie, like, I am reliving really tragic, intense moments of my life.
But it's good physical comedy by Bruce Dern, man, because that's really him fucking landing on his ass, too.
All of them.
It's not him later falling off the roof, but it's him landing on his ass here.
Yeah, that looked painful.
Yeah. But you're right, all of them, dude. They're running, they're rolling around in the yard and everything. It's awesome. It's great energy. Rumsfeld does recover and sprays down Ray and Art, while Ray's son Dave just looks disappointed at his father.
Fucking Dave. Fuck Dave. fuck that little kid.
Ricky runs over
Don't fuck that little kid.
Thank you for clarifying that, Zach. Ricky runs over and tells them the same thing happened to him last week, but instead of bees, it was a foaming squirrel. Rumsfeld takes off his sunglasses and says, in Southeast Asia, we'd call this type of thing bad karma. The camera pans down and a bee flies out of Art's mouth, and it's alive, but you can tell it's a fly. You can actually tell it's a fly.
Yeah, but still, the idea is disgusting.
And I gotta say, so as the camera is on Bruce Dern, that means Rick has to have that fly in his mouth the whole time, and he kind of like lets it out and spits it. And I don't think that fly probably survived, but who gives a shit, you know? But like, I wouldn't want a fly in my mouth, dude.
It's got to be fake. You think that was real?
Oh yeah, that was real. And PETA don't give no shits about no flies, dude. That was 100% real. You can see the fucking thing moving and everything. You see the fucking thing trying to escape for its life from Art's mouth. From inside the Klopek's house, we can see someone watching our intrepid heroes recover in Rumsfeld's lawn. Later that night, we can hear Ray fighting with Carol about going to the lake. Then he says he's going to take the dog for a walk and heads outside. He takes Vince to Art's yard, where Art and Ricky are sitting on the front porch talking and drinking beers. Good old the 80s when a 40-year-old man is sitting on his front porch at night drinking a beer with a 17-year-old boy.
Well, he's 18.
Yeah, sure.
So he's legal.
Sure.
Well, we're not legal to drink.
Yeah, exactly.
What the fuck?
Yeah. Well.
Hey, Ricky, you want to come over to my house and drink some beers with me? My wife's out of town. Wink, wink.
It looks weird under a different light, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a different stroke scenario.
Mm-hmm. Art says to Ricky, he comes over here to smoke cigars. His wife won't let him. He doesn't know I know that. Hey, Ray, how you doing, bud? Ray pulls a cigar out of his pocket, and Ricky gives him a light. Art says it's a lovely night. Ricky says, yeah, green sky tonight. Green sky at morning, neighbor take warning. Ray asks, green sky at night? Ricky smirks and says, neighbor take flight. Then he turns around to Ray and says, did you ever see the movie The Sentinel, Mr. Peterson? It's about the old guy who owned the apartment, which is kind of like the gateway to hell. I was doing some thinking. And being that their last house burned to the ground and all, it's like maybe somebody left the gate open. Just then, a low rumble comes from the Klopek's house, and Art says, it's them. They're moving around again. Then Art steps off his porch and says, it was a night just like this that it happened. Ricky asks, what happened, Mr. Weingartner? Art tells him the story of Skip.
It was a night just like this that it happened.
What happened, Mr. Weingartner?
Oh, it was a long time ago, Ricky. Hinckley Hills was a lot smaller then. Safer, too. You never had to lock your doors. Everybody knew everybody. I must have been maybe, 9, 10 years old. You know where the big mall is?
Yeah.
Well, there used to be a big drugstore down on the corner there. It had a big soda fountain in it. You remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, the guy who ran it was a rotund guy, had glasses. His name was Skip. Lived over in Elm, had a wife, a couple kids, not too sharp. I mean, hey, the guy's 40 years old. He's wearing a paper hat, and he's making cherry cokes. It's a cinch he's not running for governor, right? Anyway, it got hot that summer. I remember it got real hot. It was sweltering. You know that heat where your underwear sweats and it crawls up the... Anyway, it's hot, okay? and they start smelling this really vile stench over on Elm, and they figure it's coming from Skip's place. And no one wants to say anything. I mean, what do? Go knock on the guy's door? Hi, your house stinks. So people are trying to ignore it, right? They're trying to pretend it isn't happening. And you know those pine things? They're trying to cover up with those pine things you can put in cars. People are hanging those on their porches. Oh, you think that's funny, Ricky?
Well, yeah.
Well, yeah? Let me tell you what happened next, okay? The state health inspector shows up. They go over, they talk to Skip. He says he's got a sump pump problem. They leave. Hey, the guy's got a little sewer problem. He says he'll look after it. Everything's okay, right? Wrong. A couple hours later, there's smoke pouring out of the windows of Skip's house. The firemen show up. They go into Skip's house. You know what they find?
What?
Skip's family. Dead. Murdered. By Skip. Weeks earlier. With an ice pick. Yeah. The guy killed his whole family. With an ice pick. Yeah. Yeah, just put him in the cool basement, covered him up with a sheet, and went back to making ice cream treats for the townsfolk. Only thing, Skip didn't count on there being a big heat wave that summer. You know what that was that all those people were smelling over on Elm, Ricky?
What?
Skip's family's bodies decomposing in the summer heat. Yeah, apparently one day Skip just made one too many lemon phosphates. El Snapo.
I remember that. I remember hearing about that when I was a kid. They tore down the soda fountain that fall.
You know, these towns are full of those kind of stories. Sometimes they're happening right under your nose.
You know, speaking of noses, ever since his family has moved to this block, I've been noticing a weird kind of odor. Kind of like death. Oh!
Oh, jump a little higher, Spud. Oh, snap!
Sorry, Mr. Peterson. It was a mistake. I didn't mean to. Well, wasn't
Don't
a mistake.
apologize.
I'm going home.
Oh, come on, don't be a weenie.
I'm sorry, Mr.
It was a
Peterson.
joke.
It was a joke.
Hey, I'm gonna go do something productive. I'm gonna go watch television.
And I do like that the Skip story, man. Obviously best case scenario is Jaws, the USS Indianapolis thing, but I love it when people tell stories in a movie.
So do I. And this had levels to it that were interesting because this is like a dark comedy, but it's still a horror comedy. So it's got that edge to it. Have you seen The Sentinel, by the way?
I saw it once a long, long time ago, scared the shit out of me, and I would love to see it again.
Yeah, that's one that we should bring back. Maybe we'll do it on a watch list with like top 5 because it's got some intense like scenes that'll just stay with you.
Yeah.
I do love that movie.
I do remember it being very memorable and very scary.
Just like Don't Look Now, that Donald Sutherland, Julie Christie movie.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
They came out in the 70s. They're both from the 70s. But that same idea of like shocking moments in the movie where you're like, it scares the shit out of you.
Yeah. Cut to a little bit later, and Ray and Carol are watching Jeopardy and keeping their own score as they're playing. Ray is eating dry Freaky cereal out of the box. So you called that out earlier. That is a real cereal from back in the day. I do remember that one.
Keeping score separately.
Yeah, so like, did you ever do that with Jeopardy back? I never did.
I never did that.
Yeah.
I mean, I get how popular that show was/is, and I was never the guy who's like, let me get my notebook out and god damn it! Like I can see them getting annoyed with each other, upset, competitive. I'm not that kind of guy. Come on.
Yeah. No, me neither.
Yeah.
I'm not either. Yeah.
No.
Across the street at Ricky's house, he has a girl over. She asks about his parents, and Ricky says they won't be home till Tuesday. He puts 2 chairs out on his porch so they can watch the neighborhood shenanigans. He says, Gail, I swear to God, this is better than anything on television. This is real. This is my neighborhood. We see Art leave his house, and as Ricky says, here he comes, right on schedule. God, I love this street. I'm actually doing pretty good, aren't I?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, you're doing a fantastic job.
Thank you. I do, and I also do love how much Ricky loves his neighborhood. I very much enjoy that aspect of this movie because he could have easily been the character like, I don't give a shit or whatever, but he's in love with his neighborhood. I think that's really fun.
Because he killed his parents and they're in the basement.
Probably. I think that's dark, but you're probably not wrong about that either because he's living a good life right now.
Yeah. No one's gonna find out what happened to him, man. It's all good. My
parents are done, man.
Yeah, my cousin's coming over. He says that all the
time. Art sneaks over to Ray's window and taps on it. Ray and Carol turn around and Art ducks down, then pops back up and points to the front door. Ray begrudgingly joins him outside. Ricky says to Gail as Art and Ray meet up, "You see the guy with the curly hair? That's Mr. Peterson. He's like the skeptic. He's basically grounded in reality and he doesn't want to believe his neighbors are up to something strange. You know, because if they were, he'd have to deal with it, right?" And I was like, you know what? I was like, shit, I never kind of put that together. I was like, yeah, he just doesn't want to deal with this shit. Like, he's like, yeah, if they're doing something, fuck, I'm the one next door. I'm going to have to deal with it.
Yeah, he's, Dante or Randall?
Yeah, he's a Dante. He's definitely a Dante. I'm not supposed to be here today. Yeah, very good call. Good connection. We see Ray and Art go meet up with Rumsfeld in his front yard. He's carrying an infrared scope. They hide behind Rumsfeld's front yard tree and look at the Klopek's house through the scope. Art wants to use it to look through the barred-up basement windows, but Ray and Rumsfeld pull him back. Ray says he doesn't think this is a good idea, and Rumsfeld calls him a fraidy cat. As they're arguing, Rumsfeld tells them to be quiet. They hear a low-frequency hum coming from the Klopek's house. It gets louder, and the guys have to plug their ears. All of a sudden, bright lights start shooting out of the basement windows and lightning hits the roof of the house. Ricky and Gail fall out of their chairs. Once everything dies down, Ray, Art, and Rumsfeld slowly walk over to the Klopek's house. But before they even make it to the street, the house's garage opens and an old car drives out. The guys dive behind Rumsfeld trash cans and watch as the youngest Klopek drives the short distance to the street and takes a large trash bag out of the trunk and forces it into one of the metal cans on the curb. He backs his car into the garage and closes the door. Art says, "I can see the news report now. They were a quiet family, kept pretty much to themselves. No one would have suspected foul play. It starts to rain and Ray says, I've never seen that. I've never seen anybody drive their garbage down to the street and then bang the hell out of it with a stick. I've never seen that." They all stand up as it pours down rain. Art says he wants to get a look at those garbage cans. Ray pushes back and says it would be a bit suspicious if they do it now. Rumsfeld agrees and suggests they scope it out in the morning. Everyone goes inside and Ricky says to Gail, "Rain delay, bummer." We see a light come on in the Klopek's upper bedroom, and we see someone's silhouette looking outside at Ray's house. So, one thing I learned, or I guess I noticed while doing this on my tablet, I took notes on my computer. Can someone explain to me why backyard is one word and front yard is two words? Because that fucking drives me insane. Anyways.
I couldn't tell you.
Later that night, we see Ray in his pajamas looking out at the Klopek's backyard. 3 hooded figures are digging human-sized holes in the torrential downpour.
There's a scene in a little bit of a movie that's on the TV, horror film. I'll ask you if you track one of them. And I'm like, oh, that's where they were a little influenced by those robes.
I will tell you that I knew 2 of them and did not know the first one, but we'll discuss.
Good.
We'll discuss when we get there because I actually don't know what it is, and I was curious. If you know it, tell me at that point.
Oh, I know it.
Because I also know they had to blur out the boobs in it too.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Here we go. I love this scene.
By the way, this movie's rated PG. And this is after the PG-13 rating.
Yeah.
I would not have given that. This should have been a PG-13 movie based on the tone.
I agree. Just on the tone alone, I think this should have been PG-13. And if it came out today, it most definitely would be PG-13.
Yeah, you're not bringing a little kid to this movie.
No.
It's going to scare the shit out of him.
Yeah, agreed.
Literally, the shit will come out of the child. Mommy.
I know you love this scene, buddy. The next day, we see 2 garbage men, played by Dick Miller and Robert Picardo, picking up the picking up the trash in front of the Klopex house and talking about a new age guru. Picardo's character is trying to convince Dick Miller's character to go to a seminar, but he has his bowling league that night. I don't know, man. I didn't track a lot of the conversation here, but I love the two of them together. I love the energy of the two garbage men in this scene.
Yeah, you don't need to. I mean, the scene there, like you said, there's a lot of improv going on, so almost there's no need to track what they're talking about, but the banter is just silly between the two of them.
And they're both great.
Picardo looks really young too, by the way.
He does. I mean, dead heat. He's dead heat young, right?
Yeah.
Because we saw him at the beginning of that.
Right.
Was dead heat was 88, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just then, Art comes running out of his house, yelling for the garbage men to stop. He grabs the trash can out of their hands and empties its contents in the street. Dick Miller tells him to cut it out. Robert Picardo takes another bag and dumps it on the street too, saying he's helping. Inside, Carol is about to make a phone call to the people that own the lake cabin, but Ray puts his hand on the phone and stops her. He says he doesn't want to go. Carol relents and says that she and Dave will go while he stays home and spies on the neighbors. This causes Ray to kind of pout. Then they get into a fight about how he's spending his vacation. Dave comes running into the house and tells his dad that Art is dumping garbage all over the street. Outside, we see Art in the back of the truck rooting through the trash. Picardo says to Dick Miller, the Supreme Court ruled that the person's garbage is public domain the minute it hits the curb. Rumsfeld comes running out in his boxer shorts and a robe with only half his face shaved.
And by the way, yeah, go ahead.
No, I just think that's a subtle piece of humor too. His face is literally half. It's just half shaved.
It's hilarious. And also this garbage truck is really tiny.
You're right. It's weird. I know.
I'm like, it's like a baby truck.
And then on top of it, like, I know that it's probably clean because it's not, real trash, but they're in the back of it. They're inside of it. And I'm like, a part of me is like, that's still kind of gross though,
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
Improv.
He frantically asks if they picked up a hefty bag that was bulky and probably a little bit moist. Dick Miller says, what the hell is wrong with these people? Picardo says, he has the right to know, Vic. So Dick Miller's character's name is Vic, but whatever. Rumsfeld then cuts between them and climbs into the truck to help Art look through the trash. Ray flies out the door and runs over to his two idiot friends where Rumsfeld is arguing over who picks up all the garbage that's scattered in the street. Now, I will say this is, as much as I love Bruce Dern's character, this is the most dickish that he is because Dick Miller's like, who's going to pick up this trash? And he's like, you are, because you're the garbage man. And he's like, I pick up trash in a can, not off the street. And I just thought it was just a kind of a bit demeaning,
Nowadays, it would make total sense. White guy with way too much testosterone power.
Yep. Telling people what to do.
It's not my job, it's your job.
Yeah. You're not wrong, buddy. You're not wrong.
I'm an asshole.
Yo-de-yo. I park in handicapped spaces and watch handicapped people make handicapped faces. And you know what? I don't give a shit. I know that's fucking not politically correct, but I fucking love that line. And I fucking say it in my head all the fucking time. God, it's okay to be it's okay to make jokes sometimes, people. It's okay. Comedy should always be allowed to make fun of whatever you want to make fun of. Comedy should always be exempt. But okay,
the words and feelings of Corey Stevenson for Podcasting After Dark do not reflect those of co-host Zach Schaefer.
Okay, fine. I'll relent.
I'll relent. I'll relent. I'll relent and I'll repent. Meanwhile, Myra has like a strap and she's just like, come and get it, boy.
A strap
like, yes,
on?
Mommy.
She's going to peg me?
Yeah, she's going to slap you with a leather strap. She looks like what's his face in People Under the Stairs.
Father, man, burn in hell. Bonnie walks out of the house in her tiny nightgown to get the paper and sees Queenie in the yard. She walks over to her and picks her up. Queenie is dirty and shaking. Bonnie takes Queenie back to Walter's house and walks right by Ray, telling the boys that he saw the Klopex digging in the backyard in the rain last night. Art says, like gravediggers? But Ray is in denial and says that maybe they were looking for night crawlers to fish with. Art says, wake up and smell the coffee. What happened is the kid spotted us last night. When we were sleeping, he got up. He went to the garbage can. He took the body, and then Ricky finishes the sentence. He buried him in the backyard. The garbage men are listening to the whole thing, which I like. Dick Miller says, let's get out of here. Picardo is enthralled and says, I like this. But Dick Miller goes on, I hate cul-de-sacs. There's only one way out, and the people are weird. And they sort of bump into Bonnie in her nightgown holding Queenie, and Dick Miller motions to her and says, naked ladies. They get in the trash truck, and then they leave the mess on the street. And I love that the trash stays there for the rest of the movie. I love that.
Yeah, it's great continuity.
Yeah. Bonnie says to the guys, does anyone know if Walter left a spare key around anywhere? He must have gone away and forgot to feed Queenie. Cut to Ray knocking on Walter's front door while Art, Bonnie, and Ricky look around. Ricky says he sees something moving inside the house. The front door opens and Rumsfeld is standing there holding a pane of glass and says, a soldier's way saves the day. They all walk in the house and see the TV in the living room on and the chair turned over. Rumsfeld says these are the signs of a struggle, but Ray doesn't think these things indicate a struggle. Ricky goes upstairs in hopes of seeing Walter's dead body, while Bonnie goes looking for dog food for Queenie. This is when we see a picture of the actor who plays Walter and like Lucille Ball and everything. I like that because I saw I didn't read the IMDb thing or whatever, and I paused and I was like, is that Lucille Ball?
Is that Lucy?
Is that I love Lucy? Do I love Lucy? Okay.
Is that Nicole Kidman?
Is that who's playing her in the new show or whatever?
Apparently.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that Hulu? I didn't watch it.
I think it is, but
is it like a behind the scenes thing or? Anyways, I know.
Yeah.
You're like,
no,
I didn't expect
keep
any
asking
of these questions.
No, keep asking really long questions, and then I'll give you like a 1 or 2 word answer.
Mm-hmm.
Is her face made out of plastic? Yes.
Well, yeah. According to the Northman, which I watched, yeah, it is. Apparently, they had plastic surgery back in way back in Norse mythology days.
See, that's the problem with people who get way too much plastic surgery, because when they go to play these period piece movies are all rough and gruff. You don't look dirty. You don't look grimy. You look like
you don't look
Barbie doll.
You don't look. I don't know. What's the word? Human.
Jinx 1 2 3. You owe me Coke.
Ray says he doesn't like snooping around a neighbor's house. Art is already making himself at home and smoking one of Walter's cigars and says, you mean a dead guy's house? Ray sees Art pocket something and tells him to put it back. Art doesn't see the point, since they'll all end up at the flea market sooner or later. Cut to Bonnie walking into the kitchen to look for dog food. She puts Queenie on the counter, turns around to look for the bowl, and screams. The guys come running into the kitchen. Bonnie yells rat and points at the stove, but Rumsfeld just laughs and grabs it. It's just Walter's toupee. He says one thing about these old guys. They don't ever leave the house without their hair. No, sir. Walter left his house in a big hurry. This is one of my favorite micro moments in the entire movie. Art goes to the fridge, pulls out a dish of cookies just as Ricky opens the door and disintegrates the plate while Art is still holding it.
It's one of my favorite scenes too.
Because he's like,
Classic.
hey guys, cook it. But and the plate disintegrates and he's just looking at it. I fucking love it so much.
It's really funny.
This is the last straw for Ray. He grabs Walter's toupee from Rumsfeld and pushes everyone out of the kitchen. Outside the house, Ray has Queenie on a makeshift leash and leaves a note saying that he has Walter's dog and shoves it under the mail slot. He also shoves the toupee through the mail slot. Just then, Queenie starts barking at the Klopek's house, and we see an old man stick his head out a second-story window. Ray tries to greet him, but he goes back inside without saying a word. I'm still thinking about fucking Art holding that tray of fucking
It's the best part of the scene. It's the best part of the scene.
It is. It really is. Back at the Peterson house, Carol is feeding both Vince and Queenie. Dave walks by reading a comic book, and Carol asks if he's seen Ray. Dave says he's in the basement with Art. Carol walks over to the door and tries to open it, but it's locked. In the basement, Art and Ray are reading The Theory and Practice of Demonology. They are in mid-conversation talking about all the premonitions Art got wrong in the past, but he pushes back and says, "As I sit here, they are Satanists." He flips through the book and says, "This book is full of these things. Black masses, mutilations. The incubus, the succubus. I'm telling you, Walter is a human sacrifice." And I don't know why. I love how he emphasizes mutilations. Ray starts rubbing his forehead and says, "I should have gone to the lake. I should have listened to Carol." Art yells, "Listen to your wife. Who listens to their wife? You got to listen to me. We got to go down to the religious supply store. We got to get ourselves a couple gallons of holy water. My cousin Jerry's a priest. He can get us a deal." And this is all like Married with Children, Al Bundy shit, like that was big in the late 80s, early 90s, the married husband who just hates his wife. And I feel so bad for those people, you know?
I feel so bad. Yeah, I feel so bad for people that are in relationships that are just like not good.
Yeah.
Because you can change all that, guys. You can change all that.
Exactly. But I guess the whole idea back then was like, you have all your things, you know what I mean? This is all stuff. This is all just, my whole life is wrapped up here. But at the same time, I'm just
start
like,
over?
I know. At the same time, I'm just like, man, I'm glad that I never made that choice. And I did at one point, like I was married back in the day in my 20s. And I had this moment where I literally was looking at houses in Maryland to buy with my wife. And I'd always knew I wanted to move to LA and everything. And I had this moment where I just saw my entire life. And I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to lie to you. I saw parts of like the Burbs and everything. And I was like, but is this what I want the path of my life to go in?
Yeah.
And I made that choice right then and there. I equate it to... It was basically, I was sitting in the car. I had a mini panic attack as my now ex-wife, my then wife, was looking at the house, and I essentially had the Darth Vader moment from Return of the Jedi. I looked at the Emperor, I looked at Luke. I looked at the Emperor, I looked at Luke, and I made the decision right there, and then divorce happened and all kinds of stuff. But I can remember exactly the moment where I chose life. I chose, a different path.
Good choice.
Thank you. I mean, it was horrible getting there, but thank you. Yeah, thank you.
It always is. Change is hard. But
exactly. And I would, you know what? As tough as some parts were in my life, at this point, I can honestly say I wouldn't change a goddamn thing because I love where I'm at.
Exactly.
I love being here with you, buddy.
Likewise. And you guys will love our Patreon. If you haven't subscribed up to it yet, please do so. It's worth it.
I love how you take my heartfelt story and turn it into an ad.
Always.
I love you, buddy. You're the best.
I try.
Ray doesn't want to hear any of this. So Ray doesn't want to hear all of this, so he puts his fingers in his ears and starts chanting, "I'm not going to listen," while Art keeps pleading with him. Then he pauses and says, "Ray, you're chanting." Art opens the book and points to a page and says, "Unconscious chanting. You're chanting. I want to kill everyone. Satan is good. Satan is our pal." Everyone fucking quotes that. It's so fucking good. And apparently that was improv. Satan is good. Satan is our pal is improv. And it's fucking iconic at this point.
Sure is. Sure is.
Ray stops chanting and looks at Art. Art points to Ray's head and says, "Once they get in here, it's over, pal." Later that night, Carol is... You know what? I want to ask you something, Zach. I know you hadn't watched this a lot. When you were a kid, but you things came across your desk, I imagine, growing up and everything. Was that chanting scene, did that sort of come across your desk growing up?
Oh yeah, all the time. It's like probably the most famous scene in the movie, or quotable.
Yeah, agreed.
The bone scene is this other most famous scene.
Yeah, where they look at it and scream and the camera kind of is. Yeah. I love that so much. Later that night, Carol is looking through the book and says to Ray, who's sitting on the edge of the bed watching television, "So let me get this straight. The Klopeks are offering up Walter as some sort of human sacrifice to Beelzebub?" Ray replies, "That's one of the theories, yeah." Great. So this is your relaxing week at home, huh? I wouldn't miss this for the world. A week in Jonestown. Carol puts down the book and gets out of bed. Of course, all our true crime fans will know what Jonestown is a reference to.
Hell yeah.
Ray asks where she's going, and Carol says, "The bathroom. Relax." Ray looks back at the TV, and there's a satanic ritual happening involving a naked woman that's blurred out. He changes the channel to The Exorcist, then to Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Ray looks at the TV in horror. What is that first movie, buddy?
1975's Race with the Devil.
Okay, I assume you've seen it?
Oh, many times. It's a PG movie.
No shit.
Yep. Unfortunately, it's not available on Blu-ray yet. Hopefully it will be soon. But it's Warren Oates. You know, Sergeant Hulka from Stripes.
I was going to say of Hall & Oates. Is that who you're referring to?
No, Warren Oates from Two-Lane Blacktop and Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia and the Wild Bunch. And
the only reason I know that movie is because of Fletch.
Oh, hell yeah, I know. By the way, it's a really cool movie.
Okay.
Two-Lane, all those movies I just listed are great. But and Peter Fonda.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And what's her Loretta Swit from MASH.
Oh, what was that? Hot Lips or whatever?
Yes.
Nice.
And R.G. Armstrong, who you
from the Car.
From the Car.
Yeah.
But that movie PG'd a little bit of nudity, a little bit of gore, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but a whole lot of creepiness.
Cool, dude. If it ever pops up, man, tag me in it. You know, if Dawn of the Discs ever says something, like, tag me in it, because I won't sort of like, probably I won't remember the name or whatever. So if you see it, let me know, dude.
Yeah, it's like these people road tripping. They stumble upon Satanists.
Cool. Of course, the Satanic Panic back in the 80s. Yeah. So guys and gals, if you're a bit younger growing up and everything, if you didn't live through the 80s, there was a huge Satanic Panic back then. Very unfounded. But this movie definitely taps into that zeitgeist.
Yes, unless you're very unfounded, unless you were the Night Stalker. And that guy scared the shit out of me.
Yeah, dude. That shit's wild. Because so I didn't have any of that kind of stuff until the DC Sniper came around. Otherwise, a lot of the famous like killers were either like in New York or like Son of Sam, or like the Night Stalker was in LA and whatnot. Nothing was ever like in Maryland or DC until the Sniper came, and then we knew what real fear was.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, we'll have to have Aaron back on the show to talk about serial killers. So.
Cut to the later that night, and the TV is static, which, again, guys and gals, if you remember the 80s, you know how that is. At a certain time, the TV cuts off.
The actual power went out, or the cable went out, yeah.
Yeah. Ray wakes up and feels for Carol, but only the book is in her spot on the bed. He walks out of the bedroom and onto the middle landing of the stairs. Ray calls out for Carol, but just then, a large chainsaw blade cuts through the wall and slices their family photo in half. He hops over the side of the stairs and runs into the living room. Ray stands up in front of the fireplace, and smoke starts coming out between his legs. We hear Carol call out for Ray from atop a platform. Some kind of, I don't know, it doesn't matter. This is all a dream anyways.
Yeah.
She's in her nightgown and says it's so nice that they have invited the new neighbors over for a barbecue. We cut back and we see now Ray is stretched out on a large grill with hooded figures surrounding him and chanting, "Satan is good, Satan is our pal." Again, that's a great thing that they added in there.
So great.
I wouldn't be surprised if they ADR'd it later. Like, they probably had something chanting earlier, and then after his arts, phrase and doing that as, improv, they're like, we got to put that in there,
Oh, yeah, totally. It's great.
The grill starts heating up, and Ray looks around. He sees the Klopex, and he sees Walter in the trash can with an axe in his head. I love what Walter says here. He says, "Ray Peterson, whatever you do, don't let them do to you what they did to me." Because Ray doesn't technically even know what happened to him,
No.
That's good dialogue.
Yeah.
Ray then sees Art dressed up as Skip holding a bloody milkshake maker. Finally, Ray looks up and sees the old Klopak man standing above him holding a knife, saying, "Mind your own business." And he plunges the knife down as Ray yells out, "Okay." And I'm sort of hit or miss on dream sequences in movies sometimes, because I don't ever really dream to begin with. And my wife likes to tell me about her dreams, and I find other people's dreams to be so uninteresting because if it doesn't have naked people and I'm not in it, I don't care. But I thought this dream sequence was pretty good.
I did too. It's again, I like the fever dream and freaky movie.
Yeah. The dream ends and we see Ray back in his bed with the TV on. It's morning and he's drinking orange juice and watching Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Ray gets up and walks out of the room. Cut to Ray drinking OJ on the second story balcony above the garage. By the way, I've always loved that little spot. If I had that house, I would be sitting on that, just, drinking and just looking out over the neighborhood.
You won't, because you'll never live in the suburbs.
Yeah.
By choice.
That's true. As I look out my window and see the suburbs.
Oh.
But yeah, it's a different kind of suburbs.
Different kind.
I know.
Different.
I know what you mean. I do know what you mean. We see Art and Rumsfeld running up the driveway. Art yells out to Ray, and he says they have a plan. Ray gets out of his chair and kind of points behind him, kind of like doing the stop motion type of thing. Just then, Carol walks out and tells them that her husband's not feeling well. I love this. Rumsfeld says, "Please, Carol, let him come out." And she yells back, "He can't come out until he resembles the man that I married." Art replies with, "Carol, we don't have that kind of time," which is subtle. I like that. "Please let him come out." Carol shoots back, "I think that I've given you my answer." Art and Rumsfeld walk away crestfallen. But I do like how childish they are here.
They're like all buddies, which I love that. I love that they're all friends. Some demented way.
Mm-hmm. And Art even does I can't remember which one does, even does like the little kick the rock type of thing, as they have their hands in their pockets. Me,
Yeah.
Cut to Art and Rumsfeld slowly walking up to the old house. Art shows them where the bees came from, and they sneak past the hole in the floor to go around to the side. In the backyard next door, Ray is taking a nap while his dog digs a hole under the fence between him and the Klopex. At the old house, we see Art slide a note under the side door. He tells Rumsfeld to do it, but Rumsfeld says, "We agreed to do it together." He grabs Art's finger, and I love how Art is watching his own finger. He looks terrible. He grabs his finger and presses the doorbell. They both run to their respective homes. We see the door open, and a hand reaches out and grabs the note. Art runs up to Ray, waking him up, and I love this freak out. Ray freaks out and starts yelling, "I'm only trying to take a nap. I'm only laying here with my eyes closed trying to get some goddamn sleep." I love it. I love seeing people just lose their shit.
It's classic Hanks.
Right? And it's the Hanks that we love, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, he doesn't do that anymore.
No, why? And maybe he was right. Maybe his fears were founded that this was the movie that was it ended that era of his life, and then he kind of sort of made a little bit of a switch moving forward. Maybe he was right in being worried about that.
I guess. it's his choice. Clearly it worked in his favor because he won 800 Academy Awards after that,
right? Yeah, exactly. Let's all feel sorry for Tom Hanks,
But I miss this. I miss the everything this and pre
Splash. Yeah, Splash and shit,
Big Money Pit.
Yep.
Bachelor Party, all that stuff.
Oh, dude, I loved Bachelor Party when I was a kid, but I haven't seen it in forever.
Oh,
Does
it
that
still
hold
holds up? Yeah, I saw it recently. It's great.
Okay, is there a Blu-ray for that one out?
I don't know. It was on. It was streaming for a minute.
Okay, all right. I'll have to try to find that because I did watch that a lot for obvious reasons as a kid. Wasn't watching it for Tom Hanks, but now we want to watch it for Tom Hanks. Weird.
Yeah, you were watching it for Michael Dudikoff.
Exactly. So Art says he wouldn't wake him if it wasn't important. He says, "I think we flushed them out. The Klopex, Rumsfeld and I, we flushed them out." Ray asks how. Art says he wrote a note and slipped it under the door. They rang the bell and ran. Ray freaks out and says, "Oh, gee, stupid idiot." And then he crushes an empty beer can and throws it down again. Love all of this energy. It's great. Art looks confused and says, "All I did was write, 'I know what you've done.'" Ray freaks out harder. Art says, "You got to goose these people every once in a while. Give them a shot. Let them know you're there." Just then, Ray's dog comes over with a bone. Art grabs it and throws it. The dog goes after the bone. Ray says, "Here's the thing, though. They're going to think I did it. The old guy saw me write a note and put it under the Walters door. So now they're going to think I did it. Art thinks for a second and says, you wrote a note and put it under the door? I didn't know that. It doesn't matter because we got them on the run now. Now they know that we know that they know that we know. Ray screams, yes, it does matter. You did it, but they're going to suspect me. And he's slapping his chest and everything, and I love it. Art says, they're not going to suspect any. And then he stops and looks down at the bone that Vince brought back. It's a huge bone. Art shows it to Ray and asks, do you know what this is? Ray says, it's a bone. Art says, it's a femur. Ray says, it's a femur bone. Art replies with, a femur just happens to be a human thigh bone, Ray. Biology 101. Look at the size of this thing. You think it came off a chicken or something? Where the hell did Vince get this? They both look at the hole under the fence and start walking towards it. Art says, Ray, there's no doubt anymore. This is real. Your neighbors are murdering people. They're chopping them up. They're burying them in their backyard. Ray, this is Walter. And they both look at the femur bone and scream no as the camera zooms in and out, and it's probably the most famous shot from the movie.
Yeah, it's silly, but it's iconic at this point, in my opinion. It's iconic.
And at this point, with our giant ass TVs that we're all watching it on, I could count all 20 of Tom Hanks's giant silver fillings in his mouth, you know.
Again, old school Tom Hanks.
Yeah, dude. That's the good shit, right?
Right.
Art stops Ray from screaming as they see a figure walk in the Klopek's backyard. The person throws a crumpled up piece of paper over the fence. Art says, it's just some litter. The guy's a litter bug. He walks over to pick up the paper. It could be a candy bar wrapper. It could be a napkin. It could be a crumpled up credit card receipt. These things are flying around all the time. He picks it up and opens it. No, it's my note.
Ducommun is so, like, his timing is so good.
Yeah, dude. This is all I sort of, like I said, this is all I know him from. But he is fucking on fire in this movie.
Yeah, he didn't have a big role in Groundhog Day, unfortunately. But
he plays Gus. Is Gus the cameraman or something? I can't even remember who that character
No,
was.
he's like in the bar. He's in the bar. One of the bar guys.
Okay. Yeah, again, that's what I'm saying. Like, I've seen Groundhog Day a million times, and I love them. I adore that movie, and I can't even visually picture him in it, you know?
Want to know a fun fact?
What was that?
Never seen that movie from beginning to end.
I recommend it, man. Harold Ramis directing it, and I love that movie.
People would be like, what? I was too busy seeing other things.
I mean, you just fill my role in that regard. I'm the guy who's never fucking seen anything. So how does it feel, Zach? How does it feel you're going to get yelled at by everybody because you've never seen it?
I lobbed it to you. I was waiting for you to be like, I'm the underground guy. I'm the king of the underground, baby.
Oh, dude, but I do love, he's talking, no, it's my note. I love that. Ray runs to the house, but Carol opens the back door and bangs him right in the face. I love how he picks up more empty beer cans and crushes them in rage. She's like, you feel better now? And he's like, yeah, he just kind of shakes his head, you know?
Yeah, people would be like, oh, this is the physical comedy Tom Hanks. Yeah. Give it to me.
Yeah, give it to me. Him freaking out, him slapping his chest, dude, all of it. I'm here for every moment of Tom Hanks in this movie.
Agreed.
Hey everybody, Corey here. I just want to let you know that we'll be right back after these short messages.
I'm John, and I'm the host of Action. Every week, I'm joined by James.
Heyo.
And Dustin.
Hello.
And each week, we review, debate, and rank a different action movie.
We're creating the ultimate list of action movies.
From awful to awesome.
So if you want to hear 3 more white guys with beards talk about action movies.
And argue about where they belong on our list.
And decide you hate us because we made fun of your favorite movie.
Join us every Tuesday, and you can find us on your favorite podcatcher.
And Steven Seagal is a joke.
Hello everybody, I'm Adam.
I'm John.
And every week we are giving you a blast from our past.
We are the podcast that brings you full-on movie breakdowns, TV show reviews, album reviews, top 10s, and more, all from the things of our nostalgic past.
So please join us every single week on the Blast from Our Past podcast. You can find us on Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts. However you listen to podcasts, you can find us, and we would love to have you take a trip with us to the land of nostalgia.
And now, back to the show. Inside the house, Ray has an ice pack on his face. Carol says to the rest of them, I think it's time that we all stop acting like kindergartners. Now, before somebody falls off a roof or sets themselves on fire, both foreshadowing, I think we should go over there, knock on the door, and invite ourselves in for a nice neighborly chat. Get to know these people like we should have a month ago. Bonnie says that's a good idea. She'll make brownies. Art, still holding the femur, starts to talk, but Carol cuts him off and says, you're not invited. Cut to everyone, sans Art, walking out of the Rumsfeld house. Now, did you notice that there was like this Rumsfeld theme? It's like that. It's almost like a military drum walk, but it's always the Rumsfeld theme.
Yeah. Again, which tracks with you maybe thinking he was like the favorite.
Yeah, he actually gets his own theme song and everything,
Yeah.
Bonnie says they'll probably find out more about the Klopeks in 5 minutes of friendly chat than the guys can in a month of snooping around. They walk up to the front door, and Carol says, everyone just act normal, which I think is great. Carol knocks on the door, and the youngest Klopek asks who's there. Carol starts saying it's the Petermans, just as Rumsfeld takes a step forward and falls through the porch, dropping the brownies. So this is my favorite moment in the entire movie. I have a GIF of this. I can watch it repeat and laugh my ass off because he's holding the brownies as if they're like a waiter tray, like a waiter holding a tray.
Yeah.
And he falls, and they just fall right out of his hand, right on the ground. Hans opens the door while Rumsfeld is recovering. Carol introduces herself as the next door neighbors as Ray sort of watches. Bonnie says they brought dessert, but pauses when she locks eyes with Hans. Rumsfeld hands him the dirty brownies he picked up off the ground while Bonnie and Carol make their way inside. He goes, a little something for the old sweet tooth. Rumsfeld and Ray walk past Hans and go inside. Dude, it killed me, man. When you were watching it this time, did that hit for you? Did that land?
Oh, yeah, totally. All these scenes landed when I saw it as a kid too, but it just, even more so now. Because you're just much more aware, and it's funny. It's a hilarious scene.
God. Inside, the house looks old and run down, and there are moving boxes all over the place. Ray introduces everyone individually, and Rumsfeld says, don't think I caught your name, Sonny.
Don't think I caught your name there, Sonny.
Hans, to which Rumsfeld replies mockingly, a fine Christian name, Hans Christian Andersen. Are you Catholic? His questioning sort of backs Hans into a table, knocking over a picture of a blonde woman. Rumsfeld looks at it and says, pretty girl, a friend of yours? Hans takes it and puts it back and says, no, it came with the frame. And that's a joke that I feel like nowadays is kind of played out, but back then I think that was kind of fresh.
Yeah, totally.
Bonnie walks to a closed door and asks if it's the dining room. Just then it opens, revealing another older Klopek. Bonnie jumps and says, you startled me. Hans says, my uncle Reuben. I love Reuben, by the way, Rube. Reuben walks past everyone without saying a word and walks right up to Ray and says, you are the one who lives next door, and just stares at him. Carol suggests coffee, but Hans says he'll get it. Then Rumsfeld slaps Reuben on the shoulder and says, what do you say we all sit down for a little of the old face-to-face, eh, what, Rube? I love how immediately he gets friendly with them.
Yeah, like just in everybody's face.
And by the way, for the rest of the movie, Reuben is literally going to be shooting daggers at Tom Hanks the entire time, and it's such a great gag. I love it.
He reminds me of my father-in-law.
Really?
A little bit. Very like stone cold face. I'm just like, are you happy right now?
Like, I can't read you, man.
Jesus.
Wow.
Yep. We don't see them that much. on purpose.
Okay. It's a good thing Femme French doesn't listen.
No, she doesn't blame me.
No.
The other day, she's like, "You guys have great reviews on these things. This is like a real thing.
It's a real thing. Thanks. We've only been doing it for 3 years."
Yeah, I'm like, she goes, "Who's this one who calls you Zoc?" I'm like, "Oh, that's Dustin." Ovaltine 2047. I'm like, that's Dustin. But all the rest of them are true.
Ovaltine 2047. That's amazing. Cut to Ray's son Dave running into his own backyard where Art and Ricky are in the process of climbing over the fence. Dave says that he saw them all inside talking, referring to the scene we just saw. Art, who's on the other side of the fence but still has to cross over a tripwire, is wearing like black slacks and a black and yellow bowling shirt. He looks like a fat suburban ninja. Art, of course, trips and falls off the ladder into the Klopak's backyard, knocking the wind out of him. Art stands up and dusts himself off. He says, all right. He says he's all right, and for them to throw over the tools. The tools, of course, hit him in the head.
Of course.
Yeah. Inside, Carol and Bonnie are sitting on the Klopak's couch while Ray is sitting on a chair, and Ruben is sitting on boxes next to him, just staring at Ray. No one is saying anything. Rumsfeld is picking at their wallpaper and tears off a huge piece of it. This is famously one of the improv scenes.
It's one of my favorite scenes in the movie too. I'm just like, he tears the wallpaper off. What a dick!
He tries
Such
to
a
put
dick.
it back. He tries to put the piece back. It's great.
Such a dick.
Finally, Ray says, "Sure was damp today." Bonnie says she can't do anything with her hair, but sort of like trails off. Rumsfeld knocks on some metal piping on the wall, and you can hear metal groaning in the basement. Hans walks in with a tray of pretzels and sardines in a can. He offers everyone a sardine, but they decline. Carol encourages Ray to take one. He hesitantly does and eats it with the pretzel in one disgusting bite. Carol says, "So how are you enjoying Hinkley Hills?" "We just love it." Rumsfeld chimes in with, "Klopak, what is that, Slavic?" Ruben turns around and barks, "No!" Rumsfeld taps him on the back and says, "About a 9 on the tension scale, Rube." I love that so much. And I've said that to people before. And I love how Ruben just goes back to staring at Ray. Rumsfeld goes on and asks how they like living in the old house. Taps on the wall and says, "Good solid walls." And then he stomps on the floor and says, "Good solid floors." Then we hear banging in the same rhythm as Rumsfeld's stomping come from the basement. Everyone looks around, but Rumsfeld seems pleased and leans over and says, "Got somebody tied up in the old cellar, have you, Rube?" Just then, Ray has a coughing, sneezing fit, which is, dude, every time I watch this, I love the noises that he's making.
Yeah, it's again, he's like, it's so original because it's like a... It's so great.
And then he like quickly just grabs a bunch of newspapers and like blows his nose and like hawks his mouth and everything. He says packing dust, sorry. Rumsfeld turns his attention to Hans and says, "So just you and Unc living here in the house, isn't it, Sonny?" Ruben says, "This is a small family. Me, the young boy, and my brother, the doctor." Bonnie says, "Oh, won't it be nice to have a doctor in the neighborhood?" By the way she talks reminds me of how you do an impression of your mom.
Oh, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't talk like that. Yes, you do, Mom. You talk exactly like that. No, I don't. Yes, you do.
Did you hear it too?
Oh, yeah, a little bit. Well, every time I'm hearing her talk, I'm like, oh, it's her character from American Dad, which isn't it Bonnie in American Dad also?
Oh, shoot. I just forgot. Oh, you know what's funny? I was never the biggest American Dad fan. I liked Family Guy. I like Futurama better than all of them. And I probably liked, back in the day, I liked Archer the most.
Oh, yeah, you love Archer. Oh, no. She's Francine in American Dad.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it just reminded me of that, too. And she's so good, man. It's like, again, she's just like her. They all have great comedic timing.
Yeah, they do. And I do love this part. So Bonnie says, Oh, won't it be nice to have a doctor in the neighborhood? Rumsfeld and Reuben sort of look at each other, and then a cuckoo clock chimes in the background. I was like, it was almost as if the house was telling Bonnie, "You're crazy."
Yeah, totally.
Good sound design. Carol says that she was never over when the Knapps lived there, to which Reuben replies, "How unfortunate for the Knapps." Rumsfeld says that it's funny, but he doesn't remember ever seeing a moving van out front. Rube says, "I don't understand that. It was parked outside all day." He hates everybody, and I love how much he hates everybody. Ray seems to wake up from a coma and come to life. He asks how the drainage is on the property. When it rains, his basement floods. Rumsfeld says, "Basement." Ray comes up with a winning idea. Maybe we should go take a look in the basement. Maybe that was brother down there tapping on the ceiling a couple minutes ago. Reuben says, "Who knows? Just what kind of doctor is that brother of yours, Rube?" Reuben says, "Why don't you ask him for yourself?" We hear someone walking up the stairs from the basement. The shadow makes them look big and imposing, but then we see Dr. Klopek. Henry Gibson is quite short. And if you know Henry Gibson, he's quite short.
Yeah, he's tiny.
Yeah. Like Rube.
He's like Corey Feldman. Like Corey Feldman.
Yes. Yep, exactly. He's wearing a suit with overalls covering it, and he has white gloves on. We have guests, and he's a bit more refined than Rube is. And I like how you hear Hans in the background say, "Sort of." And then I do like this camera movement too. The camera dollies into Rube, and he says, "My brother, the doctor." And then Dr. Klopek introduces himself to Ray and shakes his hand. When he pulls his hand away, Ray's hand is covered in blood. Ray looks at it in terror.
Covered in red.
Yeah. Outside, we see Art poking around the Klopek's basement window in the backyard. It's nighttime now. He finds a yellow comb and pockets it. Art hears a growling.
Like he tests it, and then he pockets it. Like, what do you need a fucking comb for, dude?
It does the brrr thing, and everything. Oh, Art. What a piece of shit.
Oh, Art. Yep.
He hears growling coming from the basement and sees a big shadow moving around. Back inside, Rumsfeld is looking at a very large painting of a surgery. He flips the canvas around in confusion. He's not sure what side is up. They're all drinking coffee in a different part of the house. Ray is wiping the red off his hand with a towel. Dr. Klopek says to Ray, "I really must apologize for the paint. I was just touching up one of my pictures. I find painting relaxes me." And motions towards the painting Rumsfeld just rotated. Reuben is again standing next to Ray and just staring at him. Rumsfeld is looking at the painting in confusion and rotates it the other way. Dr. Klopek apologizes for not introducing themselves sooner. "I find my work is rather solitary. It always keeps us on the move. Did you know we've had to move 4 times in as many years?" Bonnie says, "All that moving must be very hard for you, Hans." No, you say that. Bonnie says,
"All that moving must be very hard for you, Hans."
And touches his shoulder. Hans is startled by it. Dr. Klopek says, "Indeed, it has been, and unfortunately they have to go to the university tomorrow to discuss yet another transfer." Carol says, "No, we were just getting to know you. That's a shame. Isn't that a shame, honey?" Ray says, "That's a shame." Rumsfeld looks away from the painting and blurts out, "Says who?" It's like, good Lord.
Meanwhile, I'm like, get your fuck, stop touching his shit. You know, you're destroying the wallpaper. They do a good job of painting the Klopeks as being like sympathetic or like not sympathetic, but just like quirky next door neighbors.
Yeah. No, I think you were right the first time. I think right now they're kind of trying, at least the doctor, they're trying to paint him a bit sympathetic. And I think that's the juxtaposition of Bruce Dern's character being so aggressive.
Yeah. Yeah. And very unlikable in a funny way, but very unlikable in this scene.
Yeah, again, at the end of the day, man, I don't know if I were Tom Hanks, I don't know if I'd want either Art or Rumsfeld as my neighbors, but in this movie, it's hilarious.
Yes, agreed.
Dr. Klopek kind of looks at Rumsfeld and the painting and walks over to him, and I was just remarking to Hans today, he flips the painting around, how nice it would be to meet all of our neighbors, and here you are. Rumsfeld says that they're not all here. Walter, the old man next door. We don't know where the hell he is. Just then, Ray spills the hot coffee on his bare legs, and we get another great Tom Hanks freak out. Jesus Christ! Sorry! Ow!
That's so great.
It is.
I love it.
Yeah. Rumsfeld sidles up next to Reuben and says, "Terrible, terrible thing, the plight of the elderly. We were just remarking the other day about how an old guy like that could just drop off the face of the earth without a sign. Vanish, no trace, nothing. Right, Ray?" Rube says, "I bet you were," then stomps his foot and looks at Ray. He does like a weird, like a Nazi stomp and then just kind of looks at Ray, and I'm like, yeah. Everyone is dead silent. Rumsfeld looks at the doctor and says, "Why don't we just cut all the polite crap, all right? What's the weird goddamn noise you got coming out of here all the time?" Carol stands up and says they gotta go, but Rumsfeld yells, "What have you got in the cellar, Air Klopek?" He looks at Ray and says, "Tell them what you saw." Ray stands up and says, "I have to use your bathroom," and runs out of the room. Rumsfeld runs after him, trying to get Ray to talk. The doctor yells to Ray to not open that door, but he does and is knocked over by a huge Great Dane. Ray screams. Bonnie does too and grabs Rube for safety, but he just looks at her. Rumsfeld says to the doctor, "You keep a horse in the basement?" And by the way, anytime anyone posts a picture of the Burbs on Instagram, my comment is always, "You keep a horse in the basement?" Because I love that line. And it's a stupid line, I know, but I love it. The dog runs through the house and eventually jumps out the back screen door and goes right for Art. He screams and runs for the fence as the dog is on his ass. Everyone steps aside just in time to see Art attempt to jump the fence, but instead just sets off the Klopek security system. Bonnie asks, "Is it a burglar?" Carol says in disgust, "No, it's just Art." The doctor says to Reuben, "Another neighbor?" He says, "A fat one." Art falls through the fence, which cuts off the power for the security alarm. Dr. Klopek apologizes for the dog. He says his size tends to overwhelm people. Carol apologizes as well and says they've imposed on the Klopeks enough for one evening. Rumsfeld says, "See ya, Doc. Later, Rube." While Bonnie says, "Bye, Hans." So, of course, because she wants that Hans D. Ray sticks his hand out to the doctor and says, "It's been real." He seems more confident now. He also shakes Rube's hand and says, "Let's do it again sometime, real soon." The Klopek brothers look at each other. Man, what a great scene, dude.
Yeah, great setup to paint what's going to be an unexpected third act.
Yeah, the movie definitely goes in some interesting directions, I'd say.
For sure.
Yeah. And then, did any of these characters stick out to you as a kid, or was it sort of like a wash and you were just like, it didn't just jive with me? Like, was there anything in particular in this movie that you were like, oh man, I love this as a kid or something?
Not really. I thought Corey Feldman was always really cool, so I wanted to see what happened with him. But, I think when 89, I was like 13 years old. And, was I? Yeah. And so I was like, I didn't know what to expect. I thought it would just be like a full-on comedy and not go that dark route as it does towards the end. So, but obviously, Bruce Dern's character, he's like, he's such an asshole, but also he's kind of like, he's what we're thinking too. He wants to get to the bottom of it,
He's sort of the voice of the audience, even though a lot of us, I think, probably wouldn't relate to him, but he's kind of saying what the audience wants to hear.
Exactly.
Yeah. I agree with you.
Of course you do.
Back at Ray's house, everyone is discussing the events that just transpired. Rumsfeld thinks they're all psychos, while the ladies think the Klopeks are just eccentric. Carol asks Ray what he's thinking. He's just sitting on the stairs and listening. Finally, he says, "I think they're clean. I think Bonnie and Carol are right." Art is very upset by this and starts fighting with Carol over who started it. Ray breaks them up and says he wants to have a talk with the guys alone in the den for a few minutes. Carol kisses him and says she's happy he's finally come to his senses. The ladies go into the kitchen while Ray, Art, and Rumsfeld go into the den.
Art now is wearing like a white t-shirt and plaid pajama pants. But he looks like Roddy Piper. I'm like, did they do that on purpose? Because it looks like he's wearing a kilt.
Oh, yeah.
With a white t-shirt, which is what Roddy Piper would wear.
Because I think
don't know, it was just in...
I think he was wearing like plaid boxer shorts.
Yes.
Because I guess he had to take off his clothes after he got attacked by the dog.
Yeah. He looked like a kilt, though.
I did, because the way it was cut. I know exactly what you mean, because the way it was cut off. He's also wearing, you can tell, a girdle the entire movie. Like you can see it, you know.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Well, he is the fat one, so you know.
Spanx.
Especially with those polo shirts, you know, you can always see that shit.
Polo shirts are very unforgiving.
They are. I have one, and it's got a cool Boba Fett symbol, and it's kind of gray, but I don't wear it a lot because my fucking moobs look very movie in it. You know what I mean?
Or your nipples poke out.
Yeah. Well, I got the big puffy fat nipples, so they kind of like make my whole tits, my bitch tits look big, and I just do not look good in a polo, and I want to wear them, but they're made for people with better chests than I have.
I used to wear polos all the time when I was a teacher, and but then depending on the if it wasn't, the fabric wasn't thick enough, you could see it look like I had a THO all the time, you know.
And you are people with better chests than I have, so.
Well, I mean, even I was like, I'm self-conscious because I was at like a Whole Foods one time, walking down the aisle, and a guy working at Whole Foods goes, "Your headlights are on." I go, "What? Really? Fuck you, dude."
Your headlights are on. I've never said that to a guy or girl.
No, I've never said that to either. And I'm just like, what?
That guy's hilarious. You know what? I'm on the side of that guy.
Fuck that guy.
Fuck that guy.
Give me my $8 piece of cheese.
Fucking Whole Foods piece of shit.
Humboldt Fog, or whatever the fuck it's called.
In the den, Art says, "So what's the deal, Ray? Are you siding with the chicks against us?" Rumsfeld chimes in, "Yeah, are you totally pussy whipped or what? Why don't you just take your balls out of your wife's purse? Make a stand for one time in your life." These are his friends?
I know. Well, again, this is like in the 80s. Friends were not your friends.
Exactly. See Zach's older brother Eric and his friends.
Yes, exactly.
Ray just laughs and starts reaching up through the leg of his shorts. Rumsfeld says it was just a figure of speech. Ray digs around and pulls out Walter's toupee. And I do like how Rumsfeld goes, "You've had that in your trousers all day?"
Yeah.
Because he looks so shocked and disgusted.
Right.
"After you found this in Walter's house yesterday, I slipped it back through the mail slot." Art says, "Where did you get it this time?" Ray nods at the Klopek's house. "After the dog came out of the basement, I found it wedged between a bunch of magazines, all of which, I might add, were addressed to Walter." Art grabs the toupee and says, "Then that means that..." Rumsfeld takes the toupee and finishes the thought. "The Klopeks went back inside Walter's house and got the hair." They didn't. It's not like they got the mail or anything. It's not like they were doing a neighborly thing for their neighbor, which we find out later.
I mean, it sets everything up. It makes sense.
Yeah,
Tracks.
it does. It tracks both ways.
Yep.
Ray is looking out the window at the Klopek's house. Rumsfeld and Art walk up next to him. Rumsfeld asks, what do we do now, soldier?" "You heard them say they were going away tomorrow. As soon as that car leaves in the morning, I'm going over the fence, and I'm not coming back till I find a dead body. Nobody knocks off an old man in my neighborhood and gets away with it." And now he's fully committed. This is when the point of no return as far as the hero's journey. He's fully committed.
Well, it totally makes sense.
Yeah, of course. Cut to the next morning. We see the Klopeks and the dog drive out of their garage and down the street. You can see the garbage from the other day was never cleaned up, which I like. Rumsfeld and Ricky both watch them drive by. We also see Ray walking Carol and Dave to their car. They're going to see Carol's sister while Ray says he's going to play golf with Art. Carol thinks something is going on, but Ray reassures her that he's just trying to salvage the remainder of his vacation. Of course, while Ray is just wearing slacks and a sweatshirt, Art comes over as Carol is driving away wearing a full golf attire. As soon as she drives away, they both run in the opposite direction. Hey everybody, Corey here. I just wanted to let you know that we'll be right back after these short messages.
Hey everybody, I'm Tim.
And I'm Dean.
And we're the hosts of Talking Back. We're a retro-based podcast covering movies, comics, video games, and more.
Check us out every Monday where we hit the rewind button and dig into some of our favorite content from the past. We like to keep things fun, lighthearted, and informative.
Do you feel like you need more nostalgia in your life? Then check out Talking Back. We're available everywhere podcasts are found.
Have you been wondering where's the beef? Well, on our podcast, Throwback Trivia Takedown, you might just find that out, as well as some other things about the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
We're a nostalgic-based trivia show that pits two challengers head-to-head in a duel of the decades, with categories ranging from movies, TV and music, to slang, food, and fashion. You're sure to get the best in retro-themed trivia.
So strap on your jelly shoes, grab a surge, and walk like an Egyptian to your favorite podcast app and check out Throwback Trivia Takedown.
I heard even Mikey likes it.
And now, back to the show. We see Rumsfeld exit his house in full military attire. Ricky is calling his friends, telling them to come over to his house. You gotta come down here today. It's gonna be live. Something's about to happen.
Again, I'm like watching this, I'm totally convinced that Keith Coogan like ripped that character off.
How far after this did the Babysitter's Dead come
2
out?
years later.
2
Well,
years?
I mean that movie came out in 91, so.
Okay. So they filmed it in 90 probably.
Yep.
And this was supposed to come out in December of 88, but because of reshoots and an alternate ending, they put it out in February of 89.
The nail in the coffin.
The February release date, yeah.
Yep.
My birthday month is not kind to movies.
Nope. Any movie that comes out during that time is typically not going to be good.
Exactly. That's what people expect, yeah.
Yep.
Rumsfeld walks into Ray's backyard. We see Art has changed into a telephone repair outfit and is holding some blueprints and looking up at a power line. Ray says, "You sure you know what you're doing, Art? There's an awful lot of juice going through these wires. You hit the wrong one, you're a post-toasty." Do you know what a post-toasty is?
No.
I'm assuming Pop-Tart?
Toast, I guess.
I don't either.
I think Toasties are like a generic version of Pop-Tarts, I think.
And maybe Post is like the name of it, so it's Post. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe.
I do like what Art says. He says, "Ray, electricity is our friend," which is like the opposite of what you want to think about electricity.
I love it.
Besides, we want to take out their alarms, don't we? Ray asks if they can just bypass the fence, but Art says they don't know how many alarms the Klopeks have in there. He can take everything out with one clip of the snips. Art starts climbing the pole while Rumsfeld shows off his fancy walkie-talkie. Ray asks Rumsfeld where they should start digging, and he says, backyard, then check the basement. Ray yells to Art to be careful, and Art says, "Hey, safety's my middle name." Ray says to Rumsfeld, "I thought his middle name was Lewis." Art fumbles with the blueprints and then drops the paper. Rumsfeld says, "I don't think he knows what he's doing." Ray looks at him and says, "Why didn't you go up there?" Rumsfeld says sheepishly, "It's very high." By the way, when he said that, I swear I wouldn't be surprised if Michael Richards took a little bit for Kramer. Like, yeah, that delivery, it's very high. It sounds like a Kramer delivery.
Yeah, I could see that.
Ask your ex-wife, see if it's true.
Call her up on the phone.
Just call her up right now. At 11 o'clock p.m.
Let's call her right now.
Right now.
Hey, Marcy. I haven't talked to you in 10 years.
How's it going? So, anyways.
Let's talk about Michael Richards and his peen.
So Art's up there. He dropped his fucking papers. He kind of thinks for a second, and he cuts one of the wires. A bunch of sparks shoot out, and Art is blown off the pole and falls into Ray's shit through the roof.
It's fucking funny.
And I love...
What follows is even better.
Yes. Ray and Rumsfeld run over to the shed as Art walks out the door. Art's clothes are ripped up, and his gloves are all missing their fingers. Also,
and his fingernails are black.
Yes. Yes, his fingernails
Black.
are black.
He's fried his fingers.
His hard hat is kind of blown up. He says he's fine. He looks at his fingernails. They're black, and he touches his filling in his teeth, and it's hot. But he just does a great job of like he's just like acting like disheveled and like still like just shocked and everything.
He's like, look at my fingernails. They're my fingernails are black.
Oh, it's so good.
My teeth hurt. My fillings hurt.
He's so good. Rumsfeld checks the Klopex security system, and it's dead. Art actually cut the right wire. Rumsfeld gives him the walkie-talkie and says he's going to set up the lookout on the roof of his house. Lookout on the roof of his house. By the way, apparently, Tom Hanks and Rick
Ducommun
didn't get along that well behind the scenes, but apparently both of them are professionals and were fine with it. But I think it was when they didn't really spark that friendship that like happens a lot of times in movies like this.
Oh, bummer. That's a bummer.
Yeah.
I blame Tom Hanks wanting to be serious.
There you go. Me too. We see Ricky surveying the neighborhood through his binoculars and spots Rumsfeld climbing out of his second-story window to set up shop on his roof. Ricky asks what he's doing with a gun, and Rumsfeld yells back, "Just shut up and paint your goddamn house." Rumsfeld pulls out his walkie-talkie and says into it, "Task Force 1, this is Eagle Eye. You are all clear." Art radio's back that they are going over the fence. Rumsfeld says over the radio, Red Rover, let Ray go over." And we see Ray jump the fence. It's a great shot because it's we can see it all happening at once, and he's across the street and everything, and they had to time it out. It's good. And then he says, Red Rover, let Art go over. And he does too. And Rumsfeld is very pleased.
He's having a good time being in charge, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm. He's in his zone at this point.
Yep.
There's a slight time jump, and we see Ray digging a hole in the Klopex backyard while Art rests in another hole. There are even more holes scattered around. Art says, "Man, it's really getting hot out here." Ray walks over to him in anger and says, "Yeah, why don't you dig one of your own holes?" Art says he was checking the hole and monitoring the radio, essentially not doing anything.
Yeah.
Makes
sense.
Mm-hmm. That tracks for that character.
Yep, pretty much.
Art says it's turned out to be a lot more work than he thought. He suggests they check the house where it's cooler, but Ray agrees. Art also suggests that they start in the kitchen. The Klopex probably have some cold beer in there. So now they're going to just rob the house too.
Yeah.
Ray tries the door and it's locked, the back door. He asks Art for a credit card, but all of his were burnt up when he got shocked, which is funny. Ray pulls out one of his credit cards and tries to flip the lock with it. You shove it in between the frame, flip the lock with it, and the credit card just breaks in half. And I like how Art says, "It's a shit store anyways."
Yeah, I love that.
Ray takes...
He's trying to be supportive.
Yeah.
Trying to be supportive.
And of course, this is the 80s. Like, you have people had 20 credit cards because it was all about racking up debt. All the 80s are about racking up debt.
Yep.
Ray takes some hay, which the only thing I found weird is like, where did the fuck he get that hay from? But he kind of grabs some hay, covers his hand with it, and breaks one of the panes of glass by the doorknob and unlocks the back door. I have literally only 2 continuity problems or things that I don't understand. This is one, super minor, super fucking minor. But later, when Rumsfeld doesn't see the Klopex drive up and then reverse, I have a problem with that because why doesn't he see that,
Yeah, exactly. I agree with you.
And I think that's coming up soon. So, yeah. Across the street, Ricky introduces Mr. Rumsfeld to his friend Steve Kuntz, played by, what was his name, Nicky Cat?
Nicky Cat, baby.
And he has a huge head of hair.
Yeah, he does.
Rumsfeld looks annoyed at Steve Kuntz. Inside the Klopex house, Ray and Art cautiously make their way into the basement. Back at Ricky's house, more kids are showing up. Steve Kuntz yells to Rumsfeld, "Hey man, when's the big unveiling? I gotta go to work in a couple of hours, Rumsfeld says, "Hey man, piss off." Then he yells to Ricky, "Get this lame-o off your yard," and goes back to eating his animal crackers. And he eats it kind of childlike, which is great. And this is the shot where you can see Burbank behind him.
Yep. Look for that shot. Look for downtown Burbank.
And as someone who grew up in Michigan, in Detroit, that does not look like Michigan at all, right?
No, there's no rolling hills or
and
fields
smog
or whatever. Yeah. There's like it's the suburbs.
Yeah.
And that's like big city. No.
Mhm.
And I love Steve Coons.
Steve Coons.
Apparently he doesn't go to work that day because he's there the whole night.
And you know what? He made the right choice.
Yeah.
In the Klopex basement, Ray and Art are looking at a monster of a furnace. It takes up most of the basement and has tubes running out of it and up into the house. Ray wonders, what the hell does he need a furnace like this for? Art wonders if a thermostat on a home furnace is supposed to go to 5,000 degrees. They look next to the furnace and see a makeshift generator built from 40 car batteries. They push a button and the furnace turns on even though there's no power to the house. All of a sudden, flames shoot out of the opening in the front. Ray says this is no ordinary furnace. Cut to Ricky's house where a bunch of teenagers are hanging out. He hears the noise coming from the Klopex house and turns around and runs towards Rumsfeld. The low rumbling causes Rumsfeld's gun to fall over and he reaches for it, but Ricky yells, "Yo, Rumsfeld!" and startles him. He slides down his roof, hits the ground, and the gun goes off, blowing out the side window of his car. The kids think this is awesome and start clapping. Ricky helps him up. Dude, that was a great stunt, by the way.
Yeah, it's a great it's a hilarious scene.
Right when he hits, he fires his gun and fucking shoots his window out. He's such a fucking klutz, man. Oh, I love it. In the basement, Ray is examining the ground by the furnace and sees that it's loose dirt. He thinks the Klopex burned the bodies and buried them in the basement instead of outside. Art, holding a shovel, asks what they do now. Ray just kind of looks at him and grabs the shovel from him and starts digging. Art wants to tell Rumsfeld what they think is happening, but Ray says not until they find something. And then Art says that may take all night. And then I like how cut to that night and Ricky's party is still going on. Said party is lit by candles and car headlights. Ricky calls to Rumsfeld, who's back on his roof, and says, "You guys managed to knock out the power in the entire block. Probably the whole south end of town." Steve Kuntz, again, I call his whole name the whole time. Steve Kuntz says they're going to make a McDee's run, but Ricky tells them to stay. He called the pizza dude. All right, high five.
Oh, I was like, I could totally go for some McDonald's at this point.
Love me some McDonald's,
fucking
buddy.
Quarter pounder with cheese.
He says that. He's like, Steve Kuntz even says, you me get you a quarter pounder.
Yeah, I'm like, I want a quarter pounder with, so good.
I'm a Big Mac boy. I love Big Macs.
Of course you are. I haven't had that shit in forever. Well, I will tell you, I got airsick really bad one time, and the plane landed at the airport, and I said to my wife, I'm like, I need to find a McDonald's stat. And all I wanted was a fish sandwich from McDonald's, and I bit into that thing. I hadn't had one in 20 years, and I was like, this is so fucking good.
McDonald's does something where it coats your stomach, and that's why it's like perfect for like
the bread
hangovers
is so
and shit,
good.
you know?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
I mean, dude, nothing cures a fucking hangover like any kind of McDonald's breakfast, dude.
I agree.
Because the fucking oil and the grease just absorbs all that shit. I guess. Folks, not a scientist.
Back off, man.
Back off, man. I'm a scientist. God, Ghostbusters. Just then, we see the Klopex driving down the street. They stop before getting to their house because they can see the basement lights are on. They turn off their car headlights and reverse it back down the street. And this is why, like, they had to get to, like, Ricky's house for them to even see their house. How did Rumsfeld not see this? I just literally would make this movie absolutely flawless if they just inserted a shot of him looking at his walkie-talkie or eating the grain. Like, I needed to see him somehow not paying attention, you know?
Yeah, he was trying to figure out what animal he was holding in his hand.
Exactly, but...
Is this the elephant or is this the tiger?
But do you agree? Like, I need that shot here.
Yeah, because yeah, yeah, I totally agree.
In the basement, Ray is deep in the hole. It's so deep that he's standing in a foot of water, and the hole kind of goes up to his shoulders. Art says, Ray, I think we can give up. They'd never bury him this deep. Just then, Ray's shovel hits something metal, and they both get excited. I love how Art thinks it's a crypt. He thinks they hit a crypt.
Yeah, and I'm like, metal, anything metal is going to be some sort of pipe, dude.
Yeah, Art jumps to crypt. What?
Yeah.
He radios Rumsfeld, saying that they found something. He said he found Walter, and Ray sort of digs more frantically. Outside, Rumsfeld looks pleased and says to himself, "We caught you, Rube. You've been playing us for saps, but you were wrong." Just then, he sees a station wagon drive up to Walter's house. Ricky sees it too and runs up to Art, who's walking out of the Klopek's house covered in mud. He tells him to look. He points at Walter's house as Walter is being helped out of the passenger seat of the station wagon.
Huge.
Reveal. Rumsfeld and Art both look shocked. Rumsfeld yells to Ray over the walkie-talkie, "Raymond, listen up real carefully, mister. We got a real problem." In the basement, we see Ray's walkie-talkie is half covered in dirt. "Ray, guess who's not in the basement? Walter, he's back." But Ray doesn't hear it. Now we see the Klopeks driving back with coppers. Art tells Ricky to keep them busy while he gets Ray. So what does Ricky do? He jumps on the hood of the police car.
Sure.
Right? Only works if you're white. In the basement...
exactly.
In the basement, we see Ray bury the shovel one last time. Then we hear a light hissing sound come from the hole, and the water starts bubbling. Art comes down the stairs and says, "Ray, Walter showed up," but before he can finish, Ray screams, "I hit the gas line, Art, run!" Art screams while Ray tries to climb out of the hole. By the way, if that was me, if I was Art and you were in the hole, I would have gone to help you.
Thanks. I would have done the same.
I know, and we both would have died. Outside, the police officer is asking what's going on. The Klopeks say there's an intruder. Rumsfeld is yelling at him too. Then Art comes running out of the house screaming. They hit a pipe and just barely makes it out of range of the explosion. And this is good because it really explodes behind fucking Rick Ducommun.
Ducommun! Gotta catch 'em all! Ducommun, go poke. What was it?
I don't know. I didn't watch Pokemon.
Ducommun, go to. Ducommun, go to. Have you heard that song?
No.
Pokemon Johto.
I don't know what that is.
It's like their Pokemon song.
Oh.
It's like an 80s, but it's like a late 80s, early 90s rock song.
Oh, okay.
Pokemon Johto.
I thought we were doing, "Where did you come from? Where did you go? Where did you come from? Cotton Eye Joe." The kids say that Ricky really knows how to throw a party. Everyone slowly stands up from behind the police car when all of a sudden the house's lightning rod impales the hood of it. Everyone watches as the house burns. Bonnie says something is moving in there, and we see a battered Ray come walking out the front door. And I love his little slide thing he does down the stairs. Like, how do you practice that? Like, how do you actually do that as an actor and make it look normal or natural?
Only Tom Hanks.
And I love how they don't hold back. Like, his eye is fucked up, his hair is burnt, his clothes are like shredded.
Yeah, his face looks melted.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think that really adds to the fact that he doesn't walk out like looking fine, you know?
Yeah. In a normal comedy, he would have.
Exactly. Ray slowly walks over to them as the house collapses behind them. Art runs up to him and asks if he found it. "Before it blew, you found it, right? Tell me you found it." Ray doesn't say anything. We see Carol driving up the street but can't get past all the people and cars blocking her way. She gets out of the car and joins the growing crowd. We see firefighters, cops, and a helicopter on the scene, plus a bunch of onlookers. Carol makes her way past the cops with the help of Ricky and his friends, causing a distraction, which I like. I like that Ricky kind of helped her out, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Because I like that Ricky's not a dick. Like, it's weird. I feel like sometimes in these kind of movies, like Ricky would be annoying because he would be the next door neighbor. I like that he's cool.
Yeah, he's an 18-year-old kid.
But he's not a dick 18-year-old kid, you know?
No, you're right.
So she walks over in the direction and finds Ray, and he's all bandaged up now. He's being interrogated by Detective Howard, Ron Howard's dad, who's playing a cop. Carol asks, honey, what have you done? And Ray just says, you cut your hair. And then she hugs him, and he says he likes it. Now, I will say that this is kind of like a weird behind-the-scenes thing, but her hairstyle earlier was a wig, apparently. And this here is her real hair. And they were like, it was weird because her wig wasn't much different than her hair. And she would take off her wig in between takes and whatnot, or, whatever. And people were like, but it's not much different. Like, why are you wearing a wig,
So they went with her not wearing a wig later on, or did they film this scene after the fact? And
I think this is all. There is an alternate ending, but I don't know if this part right here was still a part of the original ending or not, because it gets to a point when I know where the cutoff happens. But you're right. I think I'll take it back. I suspect this is a part of the reshoot, the whole entire alternate ending reshoot, and they kind of just forgot about the wig and then just worked it into improv, basically. That's my guess.
I'll go with that.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. Art is talking to a detective played by
the lone black guy in the movie.
Yeah.
By the way, Franklin AJ.
Yeah. He's great. I love him in this role.
He's such a great actor.
Art asks where Walter was the whole time. The officer says he's been at the hospital. Monday night, he had some heart palpitations. He called his daughter and son-in-law, and they took him to the hospital. Art asks about the toupee they found in the house. The Klopeks were picking up his mail for him. It seems that the doctor got the toupee mixed up with the letters. And I always think, oh yeah, that just makes full sense. But you're so wrapped up in their craziness that you sort of overlook the most obvious thing is that they're just being neighbors and picking up the mail for him.
Yeah, yep, that's it.
And I think that's a part of the movie, though, is that you get so wrapped up in your craziness that you miss the obvious stuff. I think that's sort of the point of the movie, even though ultimately they all turn out to be correct. I still think it's trying to illustrate what happens when you get wrapped up in all this shit.
Yeah, totally.
Art pushes back that the Klopek that Klopek isn't a doctor. The officer corrects Art and says, in fact, he's a very well-respected pathologist, my friend. I'd say that you're damn lucky that you didn't kill him in the blast. Art gets in his face and says, oh yeah, I think my lucky stars. Again, only a white person could do that.
Yep.
The detective looks at the beat cop and says, take care of this nitwit. By the ambulance, Detective Howard is reading off a laundry list of stuff they're going to charge Ray with. Finally, he says about Walter, and the poor old man claims that he has a ransom note that says you kidnapped his dog. And I love how that came back to bite Ray in the ass.
I like it, though. It's a good callback.
It is. Ray doesn't reply. He just looks at Carol and says, I really do like your hair. And she smiles. Art comes walking over to Ray with the police saying that the Klopeks aren't off the hook by a long shot. He looks to Ray to back him up and he says, we got the goods on them, don't we?
They may think they're off the hook, but they're not. No, they're not. Are they, Ray? No, go ahead. Tell them. We got the goods on them, don't we? Oh, yeah, you know, someday they're going to dig up the back of that yard, and they're going to find the rest of that skeleton to go with that femur. Oh, it might not be Walter, but it's going to be some tortured...
Shut up, Art! Shut up! God, you don't know when to quit, do you? Look at me! I'm a shell of a man because of you, Art. You leave! Now! Soldiers! You leave them alone! Get off their case already! They didn't do anything to us! They didn't do anything to us! All right, so they're different, so they keep to themselves! Can you blame them? They live next door to people who break into their house and burn it down while they're gone for the day! Remember what you were saying about people in the burbs, Art? People like Skip? People who mowed their lawn for the 800th time and then snap? Well, that's us! It's not them! That's us! We're the ones who are vaulting over the fences and peeking in through people's windows. We're the ones who are throwing garbage in the street and lighting fires. We're the ones who are acting suspicious and paranoid. We're the lunatics! Us! It's not them! us.
I don't know what to say. What, do you want me to move?
And Art just looks at Ray and says, I don't know what to say. What do you want me to do? Move? Ray comes running full speed and attacks Art. They fight for a little bit before Rumsfeld and the cops break them up again. Ray yells, I've been blown up. Take me to the hospital. I'm sick. And he lays on a gurney. Then he picks it up and throws it in the back of the ambulance and falls face down in it. Carol says, I'll just find out what hospital they're taking you to and follow right along. And she closes the ambulance door. So 2 things. One, this is my wife's favorite scene in the movie. She just loves fucking Tom Hanks picking up the gurney, throwing it into the ambulance and kind of going face down into it. But it's also 100% improv by Tom Hanks.
It's hilarious. I think that this was the scene where my wife laughed out loud as well. She's like, that's funny. That's funny.
And then we see Ruben walking over to the kid sitting on his car and says, okay, Hepcats, get off my car. And Ricky tells him to chill out. The pizza dude is coming. I just like that he called him Hepcats.
Yeah.
Dr. Klopek enters the ambulance and Ray starts apologizing to him. He says when he gets out of prison, he's going to help them rebuild their house. He has the tools, which is another good callback. But Dr. Klopek asks, do I look like an idiot, Mr. Peterson? Do you take me for an imbecile? No. You may have fooled the others, Mr. Peterson, but you don't fool me. Ray's confused. Come now, Mr. Peterson. You were in my basement. Surely you looked in the furnace. Dr. Klopek starts putting on gloves while Ray says he saw the furnace, but figured a man's furnace is his own business. You saw one of my skulls, didn't you? Oh, yes, I know you did. It belonged to a neighbor of yours. The name was Knapp. We took the house from them. I offered to buy, but you know how old people are. They grow so attached to things. And I like how it's okay. It's all true. Like, yeah, the Knapps, you know, they never did see a moving van. You know, it's like, holy shit. Oh, my God. They were right the entire time.
Yeah.
He pulls out a long needle, and Ray looks at it. He tries to get up, but the doctor pushes him back down. I let you keep the femur. Now, I want my skull. Or perhaps I might just take yours. Hans! And then we see, I delivered that terribly. But we see Hans. And Zach, I look at Zach, and Zach just nods. Yes, you did.
God bless you.
I'm trying. We see Hans in the driver's seat of the ambulance as the doctor holds Ray down by his throat. The ambulance starts driving away as Ray and the doctor struggle in the back. This causes Hans to lose control of the vehicle, and it runs right into the front of Art's house. Everyone watches this happen, and Ricky and his friends cheer when the ambulance crashes. The back door of the ambulance opens, and Ray and Dr. Klopek go rolling down the street while they're fighting over the needle. The gurney hits the Klopek's car, and the trunk flies open. Ray stands up yelling, "Citizens arrest! Citizens arrest!" He picks up the doctor and says, "I, Ray Peterson, am placing you under arrest for my attempted murder." While everyone in the neighborhood comes running over. Dr. Klopek says Ray doesn't know what he's talking about. Everyone starts arguing while Ricky looks in Klopek's trunk. Detective Howard says they have no evidence at all, but Ricky throws back a blanket and says, "You do now." Bonnie screams, and we see a trunk full of bones and skulls. Chock full, I might add.
Yeah, we're talking tons of dead bodies in here.
Tons. Yeah. The other detective asks, "Is this your vehicle, Dr. Klopek?" He just kind of shrugs. Mm-hmm. Just then, Rumsfeld looks up and sees Hans trying to escape from the ambulance. "Hey, Pinocchio, where are you going?" Rumsfeld runs over and tackles Hans. He does like a leg tackle.
Yeah, he tackles him hard, too.
Yeah, he does. In Art's front yard. He picks him up by the throat and says, "Don't you make a move, Sonny. I spent 18 months in the bush and I can snap your neck in a heartbeat." Cut to Art talking to a news crew. I think the message to psychos, fanatics, murderers, nutcases all over the world is do not mess with suburbanites. Because frankly, we're just not going to take it anymore. We're not going to be content to look after our lawns and wax our cars, paint our houses. We're out to get them, Don. We see Ray talking to Carol. She asks what they're going to do now. He says, I'm going to go pack a bag and go up to the lake. And they embrace. Art comes running up to ask if they want to go to the Bolorama. Yeah, right?
Yeah, nice.
And get a beer or something. Ray and Carol just keep walking, and Art asks where they're going. Ray says he's going on vacation. Art yells, "Are you crazy? This is a major multimedia event. Geraldo Rivera's coming. He's going to excavate the basement of the Klopex. It's going to be broadcast on satellite TV," which is an homage to what was the famous like
Capone's vault. Yep.
And
which was a big bust.
Did you watch that when it?
I did. Yeah. I mean, I loved Geraldo when he interviewed Charles Manson, and I was like, this is cool. It's just like he's getting in his face. And then he did the Capone thing. It was super depressing because he didn't find anything in there. And you're like, oh, this is the downfall of this guy's career.
And it
or
was.
the upswing, depending on how you look at it.
True. Very true. And I'm with you, buddy. I watched it live too, and I can still, it's burned into my brain, just the very empty vault.
Yes. Empty, nothing.
Like not even a shred of paper.
No surprise there.
Exactly. Just then, Rumsfeld yells out to Art that his wife's home and his house is on fire. Art goes, "My wife is home!"
He doesn't care about the fire.
No. Ricky goes up to Ray and asks how he's doing. Ray says, "I'm going away for a while, Ricky. I want you to keep an eye on the neighborhood for me." Ray and Carol walk into their house while Ricky surveys the scene and then looks right into the camera and says, "God, I love this street." The camera pans out into space and sort of the reverse of how the movie started. And then we see shots of the cast member from scenes in the movie and everything as the credit plays. And then it goes to the credits. Now, before we end discussion, I'll just say the alternative ending is Dr. Klopek in the ambulance with Ray. But outside... Carol is kind of talking to Art and just being like, you got to go talk to Ray, sort of, apologize or whatever. And Art's like, you don't get it. It's guy stuff. We don't apologize. And she just looks at him, does like that look, like I'm looking at him. And she's like, and then Art's like, ah, shit. And then he goes to do it. So, but everyone sort of follows him, and Art throws open the back of the ambulance, and we see Dr. Klopek holding the needle above Ray struggling with him, and of course, so he gets arrested. Then there's a shot of them sort of putting the Klopeks away in the police car, but the Klopeks saying like, I moved to this neighborhood the same as you because I wanted some peace and quiet. But then he starts kind of going on this high horse about like, but you all, like, if someone just does anything different, you guys all, like, jump down their throats, essentially. He's like, you paint your house differently here, and you get yelled at. Like, he basically starts talking about how they're sort of just as crazy as he is. I personally think the ending that we got is better.
Oh, yeah, totally. This like, that goes on way too long.
Yeah, yeah.
This wraps it up pretty nicely. That's all you need to do.
And it's more exciting, too, because there is no ambulance chase thing. Like, there's no ambulance crash in the original ending or anything. So
yeah, no, I like this.
Much more exciting.
Much better. Much better. Agreed.
So, you're 40-some-odd years old, soon to be 40-some-plus years old next week. Overall thoughts on this?
I mean, it's entertaining as hell. It's a perfect definition of a cult movie. It's hybrid of horror and comedy and dark comedy. Loved it. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
Lots of fun.
Good. I'm so happy, dude. I honestly figured you had seen it a million times like me, and I thought this was going to be old hat for you. So I'm even doubly happy that I got you the Shaft Factory Blu-ray. Because
thank you, buddy.
I'm glad you have it in your collection, man. This is great. Do you think you'll watch it again? Like, will it be
in
a
rotation
rotation moving forward?
Yeah, I'll show it to Bodie in a couple of years, because I think he'll like it when he's like 10.
Yeah, when he's at the right age for it.
Yeah, gets it. Yeah, he's a little more aware of it.
Yeah, dude. I think this movie holds up fantastically. Like, aside from the stuff we called out about Rumsfeld and everything, that some of that stuff lands differently in 2022. But we always talk about it. If you just take your brain out of it, just kind of it was a thing of the time and everything. And if you just kind of can sort of step back from that, I think this movie has a lot of fun to offer the audience. If you've never seen it at this point, I highly recommend checking it out because I think it's a blast from beginning to end.
Yeah, movies like this don't exist anymore. Movies by people like Joe Dante and John Carpenter don't exist anymore. It was a different era of filmmaking. Dare I say, probably died when we got into the 90s.
Yeah.
Because Dante's films started going downhill in the 90s as well. Small Soldiers has its moments, but it's not that great of a movie. It's a little slow.
I've never seen it.
Oh, well, you're not missing a whole lot.
Didn't Stan Winston do the effects or something?
He did, and it was kind of like it was DreamWorks when DreamWorks first came out, and they were, oh, we've got this, and we've got Ants, and we've got blah 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 blah, and all the movies pretty much bombed.
Yeah,
their first wave of movies that came out were not all that great, and Small Soldiers it's okay, but it's Joe Dante was just I don't know, maybe it was like the time was passing him by.
Yeah, and it's weird because I do remember Small Soldiers being so big at the time, but no one talks about it or references it anymore.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they had a toy line and everything, and I think it all went south.
Yeah, dude, I'm with you, man. 80s Joe Dante is where it's at. If we ever do an tour de force, maybe we cut it off at a certain point for Joe Dante or something. Obviously that's years away from now, but I do love his earlier stuff. I love his 80s stuff much more than the latter end of his career. I mean, he's still doing work. He's still working, but I'm not a big fan now.
Yep. Samesies.
Yep, samesies. You know what I am a big fan of? $2 late fee. And it was fun. Can we just say it real quick? I did an interview today with you and Dustin. We did an interview for an upcoming crossover event, and it was a blast. I love hanging out with you and Dustin, man. I wish I lived closer. I wish we could actually hang out in person and everything, but I always enjoy being on the show. It's a show that I love immensely. So what is going on with $2 late fee coming up this summer?
Oh, boy. Well, this summer... we'll be kicking off the summer of a lot of fun. We have a Streets of Fire devoted month, whole month devoted to Streets of Fire.
I'm so excited for this month of Streets of Fire. I've never seen Streets of Fire, but I just bought the Blu-ray. I sent a picture to Dustin and Zach because I want to watch the movie before I listen to the episodes.
Yeah, watch the movie, then listen to the episode, and then we've got an interview with the star, Michael Pare, and one of the Sorrells, Stoney Jackson. If you don't know who Stoney Jackson is, look him up, because I guarantee you once you do, you go, oh, I know that guy. Really cool dude. Look for a nod and a hint of Stoney Jackson in our upcoming TV Obscura, which we're recording, I think, next week. So, and then we will be doing a crossover event with Podcasting After Dark. Details to follow, but we just interviewed Chelsea Field.
Hey.
Chelsea Field. So she's going to be an upcoming interview that will be on $2 late fee and Podcasting After Dark. We're doing a whole crossover month, just like we did for Wraith Timber.
Yep.
This is going to be slightly different, but ultimately just as enjoyable.
And just so you all know, we did talk about Prison in the interview, but we also talked a lot about the movie that we're going to be reviewing coming up. And
we actually talked a lot about a ton of her movies.
Yeah.
And she had some really interesting things to say about every one of those movies.
We talked about Dust Devil too, by the way, and Masters of the Universe.
Yep, a whole lot.
Yeah, dude,
and
it was so much fun. It was so much fun. So, and yeah, right, dude. TV Obscura is next week. I can't wait for it. I love TV Obscura. Love podcasting with you and Diallo. So I'm looking forward to the Streets of Fire. I've been actually playing.
Streets of Rage is based on Streets of Fire.
I was gonna say, I figured it was some kind of an homage, but I actually play the Streets of Rage video game. I've played all the old ones, but I played the new one, the updated one, and it's really fucking good.
Cool.
But yeah, Streets of Fire, very much looking forward to that. Very much looking forward to the upcoming crossover event. Very much looking forward to discussing The Fog with you this month on The Carpenter Factor. As you all know, Zach and I reviewed the 170-minute TV movie Elvis last month. John Carpenter's second made-for-TV movie, Elvis, the Elvis story, like a biopic type of thing. But that was interesting. But we are diving into some classic fucking Carpenter now. Like, we're getting into the fucking meat and potatoes of Carpenter next.
Oh, yeah, we're launching. So if you're not a Patreon yet, please consider becoming one, because it's only going to get better on the Carpenter Factor Auteur de Force series. Yeah. You're going to love it.
You're going to love it. I love it. I love talking about it with you. And that show is a bit different. Zach and I don't break down every movie, but we do talk extensively about how that particular film fits into Carpenter's overall filmography. So we're looking at the films from a sort of a different standpoint and everything. And we are going to revisit movies we've already fully covered, like Prince of Darkness and The Thing. We're going to revisit them in the month that they fall, that we're doing this. So it's a lot of fun. We hope you guys check it out, and we hope you guys check out all the shows on the BFOP network, Talking Back, Action, Blast from Our Past, Throwback Trivia Takedown, all the shit. Cartwright, Seinfeld podcast, you know it, you love it. And of course, check out all of our friends, $2 late fee, Ready to Retro, Give Me Back My Action Movies, Give Me Back My Horror Movies, fucking Cinema 9 podcast, all of our friends. We love you guys all rock. And as always,
we'll catch you on the Slavic side. Be sure to subscribe to Podcasting After Dark and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes. Support Podcasting After Dark on Patreon. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Podcasting After Dark. And visit us next time for another installment of Podcasting After Dark with Corey Stevenson and Zach Schaefer.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Corey.
And we are the hosts of Cartwright, a Seinfeld podcast. We are breaking down every single episode of Seinfeld as we watch it, reliving this amazing show.
That's right, it's a trip down memory lane for all of us 90s kids out there. You can find Cartwright, a Seinfeld podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, and Patreon.
La la la.